As it was, I expected this episode to take similarly as long as part 2 did, but then my town lost power for 5 days after an exceptionally rare tornado came to us in northeast Ohio. So, after moving in with a relative for the better half of a week and subsisting off their power to make up for lost time, I think this finale is finally ready to go. Some introductory rites will be necessary for this episode, but not for the purposes of the story and our heroes. No, actually, we're going to take a minute now to talk about grading the mystery and how my imperfect system is in dire need of revision. If you couldn't tell, I've been wrestling since part 1 with how to define things like mystery and solution and other unconventional terms which have arisen again and again in this many-hour discussion. Sometimes, brought on by the tunnel vision of working alone, I can come to silly conclusions in my analysis, especially when dealing with new ideas. Luckily, I still have you guys, though, to reel me in and straighten me out with some good old-fashioned comment section criticism. Of the many little critiques that I received on part 2, the one which stood head and shoulders above the others was that I was wrong to claim that my solving the mystery early was a bad thing. And I really did believe it was. You guys have helped me to realize an important truth, though, and that is that for a mystery to be good, there must be the potential to solve it early. To let you in on a little secret, solving the mystery so early was the whole reason why I ended up making these videos. I went into this game expecting a rug pull mystery where they conceal all the key facts from you until the end, but was instead shocked to find it to be quite solvable and quite fair in my eyes. This made me curious as to if other people solved it when I did, or if they got it even sooner, or if it took them even longer, and so on, and now I'm Mystery Jigsaw. But that's besides the point. Make no mistake, if everyone managed to solve the mystery in Act 2, then that would be a problem. But having now reached the end of Act 2, with 3 of our 4 investigators still grappling with the mystery, it seems to me that we are dealing with a high-caliber, well-made mystery. One that can be solved early should the correct observations be scrutinized, but is still capable of puzzling readers into the 3rd act. Today, our mission is to understand just how long this illusion can be maintained. And to do so, I'm going to have to pull out a few new terms, so please bear with me for a brief vocabulary lesson. Chiefly, a mystery's worth should not be defined by how quickly it was solved, but for how long it was unsolved. This involves our first new term, the time in a mystery between the first possible and last possible solution, which I am calling the solution range. To find this, we must determine the first possible moment in the story that a player is capable of solving the mystery. There begins the solution range, for which my illustrator has created this graph. Afterwards, we will chart the following solutions when they occur in the act, and once the last player has solved the mystery, the solution range ends with them. Typically, the earlier a solution range begins, the more fair that mystery will be. It provides the reader with a longer period of time in which they can viably work out the truth. The same mystery that starts early then runs the risk of ending early too, for the last thing a mystery should want is for all its readers to work out the truth before the end. In theory, the best written mystery in the whole world would become solvable early, but continue to fool a vast majority of its readers until the late 3rd act when the solution is revealed. But of course, to properly chart a solution range graph, there is another nebulous term which we must address, one that has evaded our definition for too long. What exactly does it mean to solve a mystery? It may at first seem obvious to you, the reader finds out who did it. But no mystery will outright confirm a reader's suspicions before the end, where the author tells them if they were right. How then can we say anybody has solved the mystery early if they don't actually have proof? This was actually the term that kept me up at night struggling to define it. And after a length of brainstorming, I think I've finally figured out the 3 components necessary to say someone has solved the mystery. 1. They have identified Vivian's killer. 2. They have identified the killer's motive. And 3, they must have confidence in their theory. Articles 1 and 2 are conjoined at the hip, as I doubt any player will be able to identify the killer without simultaneously identifying what motivated him. But Article 3, confidence in the theory, that's the kicker. Anyone could blurt out Father Matthew and his motive, but they must have conviction for their theory to count as a solution, or at least for their solution to be marked on this graph. Once that player has identified Matthew, his motive, and has conviction, then they have solved the mystery. So, this is our plan. We are now on the lookout for the minute that Jen, Ren, and the Hunch Bunch lock in on the killer with confidence. Then they'll go on our graph, and we'll analyze the solution range at the very end. What's better still is that after we examine how our 4 detectives did, I will then broaden our horizons and add you, my dear viewer, to the equation. Last week, I asked you all to tell me about when you solved the Painscreek Killings and what it was that gave it away, and from that post, I received as many as 50 viable responses. So, before the end, we will see this chart blow up with 50 marked solutions, all courtesy of you, which should then greatly increase our precision in assessing this mystery. That will do for our mission briefing. Now to the Act 3 preview. Act 3 begins with a fork in the road. Players can either return to the Roberts mansion to open Trisha's music box and adventure beyond the locked gate, or they can locate the entrance to the sewers and begin spelunking. The sewers is the mandatory path, of course, opening up a grimy underground maze that connects the whole town, which can now be used by the player to access the basement of the hospital. This allows the player to turn the power back on, which then causes the road to fork again, only this time, on a blind playthrough, a player must follow both paths. Path A takes you in order through Henry Johnson's office, Trisha Roberts' hospital room, Dorothy Patterson's bedroom, and then to Oliver Gibson's photo lab, where at long last, the player finds the tools that they were promised long ago. Route B takes the players down the Stephen Moss Road, where you return to the inn to open his briefcase, revisit the sheriff's office to find the key to his glove box, and then follow back to his car and lockbox, where some crucial information about a key being hidden in a storm drain is found. Players will need the tools in the photo lab to access this key, and they'll need the information in Stephen's lockbox to know where to find the key. Once both paths are completed and the players obtain this key, the end of the game is only a stone's throw away. For some final considerations, I think it's fair to remind you that it's not a bad thing if one or more of our investigators ends up not solving the mystery. The point of a game like Painscreek isn't to solve the mystery, but to just keep trying. So long as a player is engaged in this experience, they are playing the game correctly. There is, however, a way to play the game incorrectly, and that is turning to the internet for hints and spoilers to progress. 3 of our 4 investigators have now embraced this dark side, and Bardic Jen is the only one of our detectives who has refused any kind of outside help. She's missed discoveries like Father Matthew's key and the tea time combination to the clock safe, but these are all worth it for preserving the integrity of the investigation. We began this series with a great question about the design of the Painscreek Killings, and that was, simply put, did it work? By Act 3, 75% of our detectives seem to have lost faith in the design of this game, believing that the only way they could move forward was to seek help online. That does not bode well for the overall game design score. And while I can't say for certain if Jen's moral decision-making in the remainder of this playthrough will affect the overall score this deep into the run, I am fairly certain that her choices will have a grave impact on the soul of this nation. And so, with my finger resting on the play button, I will share one last thing with you all. In my pregame phase of making this video, I took note of 2 moments in Act 3 that became available to the player through side quests. On the solution range graph, they occur roughly here and here. I have marked them both with an H because it is my hypothesis that if and when a player uncovers either of these 2 moments, they will immediately solve the mystery, as the killer's identity should then become obvious. It is entirely possible for a player to beat the game without encountering either of them, so I will alert you as our heroes approach these narrative landmines. I promise that we'll talk about why I titled this video the way I did eventually, but not quite yet. So, for the last time, let the mystery continue. In 3, 2, 1. Right out the gate, the Hunch Bunch are behind everyone else. They have made a hasty error in Scott's secret basement in that they failed to search every drawer. This means they're leaving without the sewer key or the sewer map, barring them from the main story until they find it. Together, the gruesome twosome heads to the mansion, mulling over their suspects as they go.
So whoever it is, it can't be Scott, because Scott's dead.
Right.
Can't be Trisha, because Trisha's dead.
Right.
Can't be Vivian, because Vivian's dead.
Right. Sorry,
Who's left?
I was confused as to who you were trying to implicate for what murder.
I'm more concerned about the person that's still alive and following us.
Unfortunately, I feel a little bit stuck at the gate because I haven't played this game in like over a week now. And this is just not the kind of game. That you want to not play for over a week. There's too many little pieces of information.
Luckily, Jen has chosen one of the few clean breaks in the narrative to have a hiatus, meaning it shouldn't be too hard to jump back into the story here and now. All it takes is a quick glance at her inventory to get back in the saddle.
Oh, I know where this goes. And I know where this goes. Let's go back to the mansion first.
Ren is the only one of our investigators who has decided she would rather know the secrets hiding in the sewers than what's behind the locked door in the Roberts mansion, so she has instead set off to central Painscreek to search for the entrance to the tunnels.
I think I'm on Pebble Lane or something like that. Now we need to turn left onto Black Pine.
She navigates using the map like a champ, but ultimately becomes confused when it asks her to go off the beaten trail. I made a beeline for the cemetery, assuming the old gate key I found opened the one locked gate in there. Truth be told, this is a dead gate and cannot be opened throughout the entire game. Though, for some reason, it does contain the unlock prompt.
Oh no, this is the key to the sewers? I'm not ready to go to the sewers. We're doing that last. Let's go to the mansion and open up their Trisha and Scott's hiding spot behind the house.
At the Roberts mansion, there are two possible advancements the players can make. They can open Trisha's music box on the second floor, and they can open the gate out back and find the well where Sophia was killed and hidden.
So I want to go try using that music box key on that clock upstairs. But first, we're going to try using this gate key over here.
I think this should go to the well where Scott found Sophia's body.
Oh, of course. Remember they mentioned, remember the well or whatever at some point.
Let's go take a look at this well.
The Ringu well.
Yes, it appears that there is a rope attached to the well, inviting players to rappel down. Jen is not very comfortable with this, for obvious reasons, and when she climbs inside and realizes that she has to physically climb down the rope, she makes a safety call.
Oh fuck, no. If this is gonna break on me, no. I want to go into the mansion. I want to open the music box first. I don't know if this is a one-way street, so to speak.
Dave and Tyler take the plunge, though not without healthy fear of the circumstance.
What you want to bet somebody's gonna, a hand's gonna reach over and cut the rope and we're gonna fall to the bottom.
Hopefully not. Huh.
The only thing a player finds at the bottom of the well is a locket with an engraving.
There's a number on
05.
that. 0526.
What's that on the bottom there?
That I cannot make out. Why are they making us climb this fucking rope? I swear to God.
Probably because somebody's gonna cut the rope and we're gonna fall to the bottom. It's oh, spooky.
But then we wouldn't be able to get out. We'd be stuck.
Unless there's a secret passage at the bottom of the well.
Well, you were wrong.
Upstairs in the mansion, everyone opens the music box containing Scott's final letter to Trisha.
Dear Trisha, as I've grown to learn about my birth parents, I feel as if a great veil has been lifted from my eyes.
I now understand why Father Matthew was against us seeing each other. He was right. We shouldn't be together. Please believe me when I say I did not kill your mother.
Sincerely, Scott.
Disappointing.
Well, it clarifies something that we really should have known from the start, which is that...
He didn't kill Vivian.
But they were alive when she died.
Yes, the letter is definitely a bit lacking when it comes to story developments, but in my investigation, I took that as an implication that there was more than met the eye.
I just had an urge to do something. Was that Scott's handwriting?
Once again, a player is scrutinizing handwriting of all things, suspicious of if this letter actually came from Scott.
Okay, Scott's handwriting changed the older he got, but in 1995... I think it's Scott's handwriting. Okay.
This time, it checks out. This time. Ren has spent close to 10 minutes now searching for the sewer entrance before throwing in the towel and searching a walkthrough again.
Oh, okay.
This isn't even one of the especially difficult things to locate. It's literally marked on the map. Ren's proclivity to now search a guide for lesser and lesser obstacles reminds me of some choice words Fairy shared with me in the interview regarding why it is important that you never take that first hint.
It's not an issue how the players play, but we would prefer for them not to go and see the guide, because once you use it one time, you will use it all the time. The moment you do that, it actually breaks the immersion. It's something we don't advocate, but there's nothing we can do to stop players from doing so.
By Jove, it seems he was right.
I didn't even know there was a fucking door here. Wow. Maybe there was a cult. Oh my god, this is spooky. Oh, ew. Oh god.
There's another well over here?
Oh no. Am I gonna?
No, this doesn't go anywhere.
No, I'm not. Because that is irreversible. I go down that rope, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to get back up.
Just 0526. It's a 4-digit code, and it's significant to Sophia. So it could also be significant to Scott or to Mr. Roberts, since, he liked her. He liked her enough to bang her.
In denial of the lack of discoveries here, Jen flashes inside the mansion, intent on finding more secrets. In this search, she manages to find the employee records again, and learns that
Dorothy's last name is Patterson. She had Oliver's spare key.
yes, now in the third act of this story, everyone has learned a character's last name. Episode 12 of Character Select's playthrough begins with them immediately throwing open the drawer they missed in Scott's Pepe Silvio room. My guess is that they turned to nefarious means to source this information.
Oh my god. Welcome back to Character Select.
I hovered over that. What is all this? A sewer map.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Great.
Well, that's probably what this thing goes to.
Probably.
But now they've got it, and the other three investigators are ready to enter the sewers, where they will chase after Hedwig Wren as she goes bouncing down the tunnels.
I have to smack my face against every door. Otherwise, I won't know if it's closed or not.
The sewers is the sort of level that gives the player a sense of anxious finality, as if the game could end around the next corner.
No thank you. With the spooky-ass music.
And while the soundtrack in this game has previously been amateur work with a couple of bops, I cannot deny they knocked it out of the park with creating this grimy and uncomfortable track.
Whoa, wait, I actually hate this music. This is terrible.
Tyler and Dave are not so affected by the spookiness of the sewers. They're both more interested in using the map to see where the tunnels can take them.
Yep.
Yes. Go to the hospital.
Oh, that's right.
Ren isn't terribly spooked either because she has her chat to keep her company.
Adult, healthy, normal turtles. Adult, healthy, normal turtles.
As for our investigators playing the game alone,
Oh my god, I hate it.
This is torture. I cannot do these sounds.
It keeps going. Keeps fucking going. I hate it so much.
So where does...
Top has been sealed shut. Okay, where does that go?
That should be the mayor's mansion.
So-
If I'm reading this map correctly.
So, Scott had this key to get to the mansion, but he swears up and down he didn't kill Vivian.
Right.
I would feel a lot better if I had received a guarantee by now that there is nothing supernatural happening in Painscreek. But I still haven't.
players bounce around the grimy maze, trying every door and gate they can find, until suddenly, when they least expect it, one takes them through a load zone.
I think here's as good as anywhere.
Everyone holds their breath, clueless as to what they will see when this loading screen finishes.
Fuck.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god, I hate this. Why do you have fucking sewer entrances inside your goddamn hospital? Are we in the basement? Janitor's closet. Survey says that was a lie.
I'm sure that some of you horror buffs out there look at this game and see its horror elements as rather milquetoast. And you're right, it's pretty mild, all things considered.
Of course the lights don't work in the fucking morgue.
But do keep in mind that this game markets itself to mystery fans, many of whom do not have the horror tolerance that you do. Hence, players like Jen are extremely unaccustomed to spookiness of this degree. For her, this is nightmarish.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Christ, how do I get the fucking power on? There it is. See? All better. It only took me 50 fucking years. We got the power on in the hospital. Let's go, everybody.
Okay, maybe Vivian's autopsy report's in here?
A key. Several keys, actually.
Stephen Moss. Huh.
That's the detective, isn't it?
Yeah.
What were you doing here, Stephen? What were you doing down here, Stephen?
So this would be the key to
His briefcase in his hotel room.
BH. Bernard Hopkins. I called Dorothy last week. She told me something interesting about Sophia. There was a puzzle she received from Matthew when she first started working at the mansion.
Here is where the player receives their formal introduction to Matthew's scavenger hunt. A puzzle where Matthew hid a bunch of words on the sides of buildings all around Painscreek for Sophia to find, which ultimately culminates in receiving the combination for the box at the tree.
I think I might have done this very, very out of order. I think that this is building up to the 1203 that I found on the wall of the church. And that 1203...
The rest of Stephen's journal opens up a pretty heavy-handed subplot about an anonymous letter being sent to the PI.
I received an anonymous message this morning. It claimed that Scott wasn't Vivian's killer. Fortunately, that's all I got. I've had my doubts whether Scott really killed Vivian. He sure had the motive, but upon reading all his diaries and looking through his investigation notes, I can't help but think that Scott didn't kill Vivian.
I received another message yesterday. It told me to look into Bernard. The message said I will find something in the house. I searched everywhere and read all of Bernard's diaries. Something doesn't add up. Maybe it's just a hunch, or simply that I'm thinking too much, but would he really have killed Vivian?
There's something else about his entries that just make me pause and wonder if he was indeed a murderer. I photographed all the pages.
It seems all of the letters sent to the PI were suggesting Bernard was the killer, even to the extent of leading Stephen directly to evidence. This does not sit so well with the investigators.
I think someone was intentionally trying to mislead the investigator, and that means that it was probably Father Matthew. He was trying to throw suspicion away from Scott, to save Scott, assuming Scott is still alive. Maybe like Scott and Father Matthew are still like living here. That could be who the people are.
Where are you, Stephen?
dead, probably. Alright, you want to play mortuary assistant now?
No.
I don't like the idea that somebody else could be here and now know that I am here.
Here we have a hammer, used to open the broken drawer in Wanda's bedroom, as well as to remove the bloody floorboard in Bernard's office.
A tool! Thank Christ.
Great. Now I can come down here whenever I need to.
Yeah, back in the hospital. I don't have to leave through the sewers. Now that the power's back on, too. This should mean that I'm going to be able to get right back into Henry's office.
Here, the sleuths once again split up and look for clues. The guys go upstairs to finally open Henry's office with the electronic reader, and the gals both leave the hospital through the sewers again. Not sure I understand why.
No, I'm not a teenage ninja mutant. I promise. I would tell you if I was.
Oh, we're gonna switch the power off again.
This game has made me wait a very long time to get into this room. Let's find out why.
Here on this end table, a letter can be found addressed to Henry Johnson, where Vivian doesn't just say to his face that she knows he's been embezzling, but that all funds to the hospital will be frozen until the missing money is located.
You know, it's still possible that... Actually, I don't think it is possible that Dr. Johnson killed Vivian, because I think he was dead first. But he has motive.
Henry, I just received a letter from the NMB investigation firm regarding the use of the RRF funds. I need you to call me. Henry, we really need to talk.
This must be Vivian.
Hey, look, a key.
This might be his house key.
Nope.
No, this is room 203. That's Trisha's room.
To Charles Roberts, I don't know if it's a joke that you sent me the threat letter, but if you knew about the well, then you must have found out the truth. Just so you know, your wife was the one behind all of it. If you have any grudge, it's with her, not me. I was just a witness in Sophia's death, nothing more. Henry Johnson, June 30th, 1995. Fax it tomorrow.
So Henry Johnson, too, received a threatening letter from the killer. Fucked up ease and everything. He suspected that it came from Charles after he learned what happened to his mistress, and as such prepared a vicious fax for him to be sent on the morning of July 1st. But did this fax ever get sent?
Wait, hang on. Fax it tomorrow, June 30th, 1995. Okay, this is huge, because this could then implicate Charles as the murderer. He could have killed Vivian. But we gotta figure out if this actually ever made it out. So June 30th, and it said fax tomorrow. Okay, let's get our timeline straight. Henry Johnson's death, July 13th. Body submerged in water for as long as 15 days. That puts the timeline that he died the night he wrote this letter, and he did not actually fax it to Charles. So Charles is probably not the murderer, because he probably never knew any of this.
Yep, my understanding is that's correct. After receiving this threat letter, Henry had the brilliant idea to indulge whoever sent it with a late-night meeting in a secluded area. Afterwards, he was found at the bottom of the lake.
I think that Matthew individually sent one of these letters to everyone he wanted to kill, besides, the guy, Andrew Reed, who I think he just outright burnt him alive in his house.
We're still looking for that typewriter with the weird E.
Yeah, like uplifted E.
Yeah.
Jen has used the key that Stephen dropped in the morgue to get into the locked room on the second floor of Bernard's house. The gist of these diaries here is that Bernard became convinced that Vivian was having an affair, and he was pretty upset about the fact that she wasn't having the affair with him. This is expressed plain as day by one of the more bizarre items found in the entire game.
What the fuck? I reported sick for the third consecutive day. As I laid in bed, I kept thinking on why Vivian would be seeing another man. No matter what Charles did to her, she has kept her faith in him throughout the years. How could she be having an affair now? She's better than that. She's supposed to choose me. They're probably not having an affair. I'm guessing it's for some other reason?
Yep, Jen's right here. There is no affair going on. Bernard just needs to take his pills. Unfortunately, after her 1 week break, Jen has forgotten about the hastily nailed floorboards spattered in blood one room over. Now that she's got the hammer, she can open it, but instead seems preoccupied with trying to remember where the briefcase is.
Now I'm thinking about it, I feel like I did see a briefcase somewhere. I could just be making that up, though, in my head.
Ren, on the other hand, knows exactly where the briefcase is. Last time she streamed, she became super fixated on opening it, convinced that it might hold the next breakthrough.
Oh, this is Andrew's autopsy report. Oh, here's Henry Johnson's. Is that Vivian's? Third-degree burns. Pneumothorax. What does that mean? Pneumothorax. A collapsed lung.
Here, in vivid detail, the game is now confirming that all three of these deaths were foul play, likely by the same perpetrator.
Closer inspection reveals punctured lungs. Murdered with a sharp, pointy instrument before the fire. Pull out a car. Victim's lungs do not contain water. Oh, he didn't die by drowning. Due to the prolonged submerging of the body, the estimated time of death might not be accurate. Did not drown. Was whacked in the head with something sharp and heavy. Like an axe, perhaps?
Something very interesting here is that in the final autopsy report, forensic expert Ren finds an interesting detail in the account of Vivian's death wound.
Impact caused by strong force with sharp object. On the right side of the head. It's also on the right side of their skull. If you were left-handed... who is it that's left-handed? Bernard, the manservant. If you were left-handed, wouldn't you swing to the left? So then you'd be hitting the left side of the other person's skull? You know what I mean?
While the semantics of the attacker's left and the victim's left are easily lost in translation, Ren has just made a very important and correct assumption. Vivian's murderer was left-handed. Elsewhere in this briefcase, a very informative scrap of paper is found.
The code for Charles' safe in the gallery is Vincent's birthday. What is that 774? What is 7741? What is that?
That code right there opens the locked filing cabinets way back in the sheriff's office. And finally, at long last,
This is extremely helpful. Where's my phone?
Meanwhile, in Trisha's hospital room,
Somebody's ransacked this room already.
Why are there so many tapes here? Pick up one of those tapes. Happily ever after?
That's not creepy at all.
Lots of storybooks. That's right. Trisha requested to have all of her favorite books brought from the hospital.
Scott Brooks' body found by Jogger with multiple stab wounds to the heart. Police do not know if this is tied to the murder of Vivian Roberts.
So Scott is dead. I'm quite sad about this. I will not lie.
He was found dead yesterday. His body was found on the roadside along Maple Drive at around 6:50 a.m. A jogger happened to find
Note that down. We want to go look at that.
roadside Maple Drive.
Yeah.
It's too easy, but I think Bernard did it. We found some really incriminating things in his desk. We know that he had a thing for Vivian. So if this was Trisha's room, then she must have gotten the news. Poor thing. Oh my god, another key. A room key. And a Trisha diary. Oh, this is... No, a Dorothy diary. Was this Dorothy's room? That was the key to Dorothy's bedroom! Yes! Oh boy, we're in the home stretch now.
yes, it opens Dorothy's second floor, meaning the players will finally have access to the long-awaited photo lab of Oliver Gibson.
Yeah, it was on top of her diary, so let's go see if that unlocks that room at top of Dorothy's house.
Yes! And then we can get the tools that we need for something.
In the Tyler's home, Jen has just finessed open the broken drawer with the help of the hammer. Inside are some Tyler family secrets that have been foreshadowed to all, but predicted by none.
Derek's psychiatric evaluation. After almost 5 months of sessions, your son is now much better. We are still unable to get him to talk much, but he has chosen to express his thoughts and feelings through written text. During his last session, however, he wrote the following. Mom doesn't like me to make noise when it's late at night. Says it will wake everyone up. So I was very quiet when I opened the back door. Kitty flew away. There were noises behind the wall fence. There's a door that's always locked, but there's light behind the keyhole. I walked to the door and looked through the keyhole. There were 4 people. 2 of them were fighting. A baby was crying. Then one of them fell down and hit her head. She stopped moving. Her eyes were open. I wet my pants because she was looking at me. Oh.
You might now recall that Derek Tyler is 5 years older than Scott, and that we learned earlier in his youth that he and his mother stayed at the Roberts mansion as he was growing up. Up until this point, a keen sleuth may have been able to make the connection that Derek was living at the house at the time of Sophia's death. But I doubt anyone made the larger realization that he witnessed the murder take place as a 5-year-old.
Derek poked a bird's nest till it fell off the tree. After that, he stoned the chicks to death. Oh my god. Yeah, that's psycho behavior.
Derek's fragile psyche has been a well-kept secret from the player up until this point, and for some investigators who I met in the comments, it seems like this journal had a major impact on their investigation, leading some to fully commit to the theory that he was the killer.
I should not have asked him to keep quiet about Sophia's death. He must have been bottling up his emotions all these years. Maybe it's time I start homeschooling him.
But even after these dark revelations, Jen is not buying it.
I don't know, Derek's stuff didn't really sound like, like there was really anything bothering him. Just that he liked Trisha. But in his journals, he sounds kind of like, normal.
Recently, Ren learned that the code to Charles's safe was Vincent's birthday. Of course, this far in the narrative, she knows that Vincent grew up to become Scott Brooks, so she heads to the cemetery in search of Scott's tombstone to find her solution.
June 1st, 1975.
But then, punching the code into the safe, Ren has some difficulty.
What?
Previously, 6-digit date codes have been functioning as MMDDYY, but that does not seem to work now. For some reason, the developers have now switched the format. Charles' safe is opened using MDYYYY. We saw Tyler and Dave struggle enough to get the first date format right, so I can't wait to see how they cope with the flow switch. Luckily, Ren keeps on trying and gets it open.
1975. Hello! This is a bishop.
No, it's not a bishop, for Christ's sake. You haven't found any bishops yet.
No, this is a king. Right?
Ren then finds a very naturally written journal, beginning with, "I cannot believe Scott killed my wife." Yes, would you believe that Charles was not very pleased with Vivian's murder, and was very vocal about blaming Scott, especially in front of Bernard.
I got drunk last night at the inn. Scott's now a free man. I think I babbled about how much I despised Scott and what I would do to have someone get rid of him. Did I really say that? How did I get home anyway? Oh, okay. Charles. Let's see. Bernard. Was told by Charles to get rid of Scott.
At the very end of this journal is a ridiculous page where Charles Roberts openly writes down his routing and account number for his bank, but decides he had better only write down a hint to open his desk drawer. It is not a very helpful hint either.
Study room desk hint my ass.
The guys have all zoomed over to Dorothy Patterson's house for the key to the photo lab, but quickly become sidetracked with other finds up there.
Daughter of ex-mayor found dead at Painscreek Community Hospital. Trisha Roberts falls 40 feet from rooftop, lands on head, and dies. Well, I guess we know who that was.
That's very sad. Is no one in this game not gonna die horribly? That's a problem. Sophia? Wait, what?
Having not braved the well, I am pretty confused to find a lockbox with Sophia's name on it. Tyler and Dave, though, know just what to do.
0526. Nice. Landing a job here as the maid was the best thing that could have happened to me. However, I never imagined I would be having an affair with a married man, let alone my employer. Now I'm
God damn, he moved fast.
I received a telegram this morning from Matthew wishing me a happy birthday. Her birthday is March 18th. Okay. All I need to do is find the clues that he placed in her favorite places. He's waiting for my telegram after I've solved the puzzle. I've actually solved it already, but I don't know what to say to him. What should I do?
And then, after enough teasing, our brave heroes finally have their prize. The key to Oliver's photo lab at long last.
House key. That's probably the key to the photo lab. Okay. That's still pretty damn sad about Trisha.
Jen has taken up the scavenger hunt now, searching the building exteriors for words left behind by Matthew.
This one says stream. It says stream on the post office. Moon Cafe says playground. Hotel says bird? What the hell is bird? That's not a place or a fixed place thing. What?
Oh, you're not supposed to know about that for, like, another 30 minutes, actually. Carry on. Eventually, she travels back to the church, where she finds that one.
Oh, shit.
But does she know that it's the code to that box?
This might be the code for that box.
Yep, she knows.
There should be one more word written somewhere.
But Jen doesn't bother looking for it. So, after the appropriate progression and puzzle is solved legitimately, Jen will now be opening the box she discovered way back in part 1, immediately after she first arrived in Painscreek.
Dear Sophia, it's been quite a while since I last wrote to you. I've been busy. I hope you are doing well. Father Calvin has been handing me more and more responsibilities. It seems like he might be retiring soon. He even gave me his favorite desk in the study room. I've changed its code to this. Nice. Today marks the 6th year that you left Painscreek. I still don't know why you left. All I want to say is take care. This will be my last letter. One day I hope to see you again. That was Valentine's Day, 82.
Nothing in that box immediately seems to have made her suspicious of Matthew killing Vivian. But we all know what's in that desk she's on her way to open. In fact, that desk is one of my 2 hypothesized moments which I believe will result in an immediate mystery solution. Ren is trying to crack open the chess desk but can't figure out the code. She still needs to find the bishop, which she thinks is the queen.
I need to find the queen.
Then she opens the music box upstairs and reads an underwhelming letter from Scott, which is of, again, little importance.
Well, he said that he didn't kill Vivian, but I don't know how honest he's being. And then I've got a mansion gate key.
For the first time in her playthrough, Ren approaches the mansion gate, now holding the key to open it. This leads to a very strange occurrence, which I don't believe was ever supposed to happen.
Did you guys see a person there for a second?
Yeah, so the game is built so that the first time a player visits this back wall, they can see the ghost of Sophia in the distance, constantly looking back at them. What the devs didn't account for is that this is Ren's first time visiting the gate, and she has the key. So Sophia sees Ren coming and just kind of awkwardly goes, "Oh shit," and warps out of existence.
Hello, ma'am?
This results in what is accidentally one of the better jump scares in the game, and one that Ren sorely needed after missing the ghost outside of 7 Blackpine.
That freaked me out. Jesus Christ.
Ren is braver than most, which is to say, braver than me, and instantly plunges down the well.
Please don't trap me down here. 526. So it was this well that they buried Sophia in. Why would she have a necklace with a code on it?
You know, when I started this game, it seemed like a silly idea for an entire town to depopulate. Why would people just decide, yep, let's pick up and leave? There's nothing left here for us. I think I get it now. Would you look at that? Would you look at that piece of shit? The code for Charles' safe is in the gallery. In the gallery is Vincent's birthday. How could I not have thought about that? Call Sheriff James, check his files, 7741, that's classified documents. We're going all the way back to the beginning of the game. We got something for the sheriff's department.
The autopsy reports, which are supposed to be an alarming reveal that Andrew and Henry were murdered also, are of no surprise to me.
Brooks killed him.
But the magic of the mystery is still working on our other investigators.
We still have no idea who killed Vivian, though.
I feel like we're tugging at threads and eventually it'll come unwound.
Tyler, Dave, and myself are now entering Oliver Gibson's photo lab. We all came in here looking for tools, but unbeknownst to us, there is an important document in here. A fax that says Father Matthew was sick and did not attend a religious event that he was invited to that took place between July 18th and 23rd.
That was around the time when Scott got arrested.
And why did Scott get arrested, Dave? Any guesses?
June 6th. The night of June 6th was when he murdered Andrew Reed. So that was about 6 weeks after that letter took place.
Yeah, and it was about 6 weeks after Andrew's death that Vivian was killed. Does nobody know when Vivian died?
Yoink. And the shovel.
The boys now possess the Slim Jim, hammer, shovel, and wrench. Every tool in the game. Of those 4, the wrench and the Slim Jim are the only 2 required to beat the game. The rest only serve to unlock subplots. Jen is now in Father Matthew's office and is opening the desk of incriminating clues and dates as we speak. Let's see what she gathers.
I visited Scott today. I couldn't believe what he said. How could Sophia be dead? Oh dear. How could Andrew, Henry, and Vivian have killed her? What should I do now? I know I should forgive them, but it's so difficult. I'm dying inside. I wish I had never visited Scott. I wish I never heard what he said. I wish I could just forget everything. I need to talk to Andrew. I need him to confess. Okay, let's get out of here.
Really?
None of these things are really yielding me the information that I want.
That is interesting. This was one of those moments where I was sure the killer would become obvious. But after reading this journal, Jen appears none the susser. While the solution could click for her right around the corner, Team EQ has just pulled off a grand feat of mystery design. They've shown the reader a critical piece of evidence without them realizing it.
Yeah, there are axes missing. And there's also a knife missing, which would explain the lacerations. But is somebody trying to frame him?
Ren is now back in Bernard's house, where she's just unlocked the man's bedroom. This is done using the key found in the morgue.
By the evening, I started thinking about Vivian. Did he get a little too unhinged? Couldn't Vivian stop seeing that guy? What guy?
Besides his journals, she does find this ridiculous thing. Which I still have no clue if it's planted evidence or something Bernard actually did.
I drove Vivian today since Derek is out of town with Charles. As I was driving, we talked. She expressed that, despite having a successful business, she felt empty and tired.
I then arrive at Bernard's house with the hammer, just in time for Ren to zero in on the bloody floorboard as well. We open it together, and then are left grappling with the implications.
Bernard!
Okay, I'm gonna already say that probably is the murder weapon that killed Scott Brooks. I think that's fairly obvious.
Either somebody's trying really hard to frame Bernard, or he really did kill Vivian, because there were lacerations all over her body, as well as Andrew, the former groundskeeper.
But I'm not convinced yet that Bernard was actually the killer, because an anonymous informant fed information to Stephen Moss, the private investigator, that said, come to this place. So I don't think it's Bernard. I think Bernard, even though he had motive to kill Scott, I think that someone's trying to frame him.
Now possessing the photo of the complete dartboard, Ren takes a few minutes to puzzle out the dart score and open Bernard's desk. Inside, she learns that she was right to be so skeptical of Bernard's involvement.
Oh! When the police reported that Vivian was murdered, I was floored. How can Vivian be dead? Scott should pay for what he did. He's shocked at Vivian's death in his personal diary that I found locked in his desk. That's a pretty big sign that perhaps he didn't kill her. But this is some really damning evidence, my dude. Did you kill Scott?
The Hunch Bunch have just broken into Stephen's briefcase.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Oh, the dartboard thing.
Aha! No, take a picture of that.
Seeing them receive the autopsy reports is especially fun, as they're learning for the first time that all 3 deaths were explicitly murders.
Pneumothorax is a possible cause of death, but the body is too burnt to confirm.
Oh, no.
60
These are all the autopsy reports.
Due to prolonged submerging the body in water, estimated time of death might not be accurate. Estimated time of death is between 12 to 16 days. Yeah. July 14th, so we know that it was July 1st. Crack found on the right side of the head, impact caused by strong force with a sharp object, lacerations on front torso and backsides of both forearms. Victim died from loss of blood.
They struggle to agree about the murder weapon, though. Dave thinks it's too early to make any assumptions, but Tyler is pretty sure that
They were all stabbed to death.
She was cut.
Yeah, they were all stabbed to death with a knife.
No, I don't know that she was stabbed, but yeah, anyway.
Oh, also these guys finally found this notepad.
We didn't read this.
They immediately take down to the inn's reception area to search for the panel, and it doesn't take them long to just give in and search for a spoiler. Ferry's words ring truer and truer.
Once you use it one time, you will use it all the time.
There we go.
There we go.
As he left, I could not help but wonder if it had anything to do with the mansion maid who left Painscreek. So that wasn't really helpful,
No, not really.
but interesting to know.
What's going on, Henry? Why aren't you returning my calls? This is really important.
Was that Vivian? I was just a witness in Sophia's death, nothing more. Wow. Imagine putting that in writing. I know what you did. Meet me by the well at midnight. You know which one. Come alone. This was written on a typewriter. Scott had a typewriter.
She has correctly identified that it was written on a typewriter, but has either forgotten or failed to notice the messed up E. As such, she only recalls that Scott had a typewriter, which makes him wrongfully more suspicious in her eyes. Truth be told, there is actually another well-hidden typewriter in Painscreek that can serve as a powerful red herring to those who notice it. It can be found in Derek Tyler's bedroom, half concealed in a moving box, with an unfinished letter that reads... Okay, back to Jen now.
Looks like Steven was here already. Oh no.
Jen doesn't outright say it, but I believe this has now damaged her theory that Scott was most likely Vivian's killer. She saw his tombstone earlier, but did not have confirmation that he was dead so soon after Vivian, let alone violently murdered.
Well, that's what happened to him. A key.
She finds the key to Dorothy's, and before leaving begins inspecting the items in her inventory to catch her next lead. This is when she finds a minute detail that everyone else has missed on Sophia's locket.
Oh, it says M to S. Ew. So Matthew to Sophia.
Oh yeah, Cetra, I found this necklace at the bottom of the well where they threw Sophia's body after they murdered her. And it's got a code on the back.
Ren has cracked open Vivian's desk, having now completed the darts puzzle. and is in for an underwhelming read, which really only confirms that the man Vivian had been meeting with was a colleague for work. She was not having an affair.
Met with Owen Smith to hash out public gallery project. But it sounds like everything was going okay with him.
Wren has been leading pretty far into the Scott is the killer direction, but after leaving the mansion, good old Cetragale comes back and asks her a critical question about motive. Instantly, Wren has an answer.
Were murdered. Motive is pointing heavily to Scott. Is there anyone else who would want revenge for Sophia? Father Matthew. He was really close to her when they were younger, and he's actually the one who got her the job as a maid. If he found out that she was murdered, he might go a little crazy because she seemed to be really important to him.
Woohoo! Wren is quite close to the solution, but she just doesn't believe hard enough yet. It's a safe bet to me now that if Wren finds a way into Matthew's locked desk, the one found by way of the scavenger hunt, then she will likely solve the murder on the spot. Next up, Wren and myself both head to the Tyler's home to unstick the drawer, and together we learn about Derek's childhood trauma.
February 20th, 1981, school called me again and told me that Derek poked a bird nest till it fell off the tree. Holy shit!
After that, he stoned the chicks to death. Jesus Christ.
The principal asked if Derek had suffered any kind of trauma that would cause him to act like this. I could not tell him that Derek witnessed Sophia being killed. He was only 5 when that happened.
Derek witnessed Sophia being killed. So he knows exactly who participated in that.
I am still 99% convinced that Matthew is behind the whole thing, but this sudden and unexpected twist has shaken my confidence.
I'm gonna need a minute to take this in. Is Derek an actual murder suspect now? He actually kind of is.
I should not have asked him to keep quiet about Sophia's death. He must have been bottling up his emotions all these years.
Was there any evidence to that? Was there, any little breadcrumbs that I was failing to pick up?
Since you asked, yes, there were indeed breadcrumbs. Early on, we read in a Derek journal that he was having nightmares that he couldn't remember. This is suggesting he was dealing with some kind of repressed memories. And we also learned from a different journal that Derek often did everything in his power to avoid driving Vivian. It's subtle, but there. He's terrified of her. Immediately after this read, Wren lays out all her prime suspects and their motives in what is a very insightful moment.
Scott, revenge for his mother. Bernard felt entitled to Vivian. Matthew, revenge for Sophia. Charles, revenge for Sophia, resentment for Vivian. Yeah.
Say what you will about her eternal struggle to find houses, but Wren takes damn good notes.
Derek being deranged is an especially frightening thought to me. Because there's a good spot to believe that he might be the freaky dude in the hoodie who's
Oh
been
my
around
god,
town.
for the last fucking time, there is no guy in a hoodie, it's a ghost! We now join the Hunch Bunch way back at the sheriff's office from the beginning of the game. Here, we learn that Stephen Moss was collaborating with the police for some time, and that they gave him access to confidential records, beginning with a titillating coroner's report.
To Sheriff Howard, the crack in Vivian Roberts' skull shows that the weapon used is an object with a heavy and sharp end. Something like an axe would fit the description. This clarifies the following. 1, that the victim was facing the killer. 2, that the killer is strong enough to land such a clean but deadly blow. And 3, that the killer is left-handed.
But the next series of documents in this filing cabinet are of extreme importance. They are records of alibi collected from the police. There's 6 or 7 of them in here, and the one belonging to Matthew contains a damning lie. This is, in fact, the other moment in Act 3, which I have hypothesized to be impassable. Once the player notices it, the killer must become a giveaway. So let's see if the Hunch Bunch will catch it, or if it goes over their heads.
Matthew Brooks, there's an annual religious gathering in Hartford where pastors from different churches in our state's vicinity meet and discuss what we can do to help our society. The event started on July 18th and ran for 5 days, so it ended on the 23rd. I represent our church can confirm this because we had to cancel our Sunday service. However...
But he said that he was ill.
Yeah.
And didn't go.
Matthew
might be the killer.
The other alibis seem to check out, except for Derek, who acted a little shifty and never gave the police the phone number of his friend, and Bernard, who basically just said, "I was at home that night. Trust me, bro."
Derek, Matthew, and Bernard.
Yeah, none of their alibis are, well, especially Matthew. Matthew is a really shaky alibi.
Yeah. Matthew lied for reasons we don't know.
Tyler and Dave have now identified Matthew as the killer, but, much like Ren, they're still considering other suspects. This means it doesn't count as a solution yet, but truthfully, I don't think it'll be long before they lock in.
Hello. A car key. Why would Matthew lie, though?
Well, if he's the murderer, then there's a motive to lie. And he's upset at what they did to Sophia and also Scott.
Jen is returned to Painscreek for another sitting of mystery solving and begins by recounting what she learned last time.
It turns out that Father Matthew was in love with Sophia as well. This seems to be a pretty common recycled plot point here.
A recycled plot point? Holy God, she doesn't even suspect him. Matthew Brooks is hiding from her in plain sight. This is seriously beginning to defy my expectations. Well done, EQ Studios. As of right now, her prime suspect remains Scott Brooks, though things become more complicated when she goes to Bernard's house and has a knife thrown in the works.
I was about to say, but Scott was stabbed. They made such a big deal of an axe being missing from the cabinet downstairs. So that makes it sound like that would be Bernard's murder weapon of choice, but here's a knife with bloodstains on it, in fact.
Traveling back to Henry's office to re-examine the threat letter, Jen is still most suspicious of Scott.
And this came from Scott, most likely, because it's written on a typewriter. So Scott really wanted all of them to come out so that he could what? So that he could give them a stern talking to? They all died one by one, though. And it just didn't seem like Scott actually had a hand in their deaths.
Eventually, she makes her way to Dorothy Patterson's house, where she learns the truth about Trisha's death.
Oh, here we go. Daughter of ex-mayor found dead at Painscreek Community Hospital. She was the one who fell or jumped off the roof. Okay, Dorothy, where the hell is the key to that one guy's house? There we go.
She then opens Sophia's box easily enough and reads another letter from Matthew to Sophia.
So they were at the orphanage together as orphans. This is the best thing that ever could have happened to me. However, I never imagined I would be having an affair with a married man. I love these diaries. Like, by the way, diary, I'm now having an affair with my employer who's married and carrying his child.
Then in Oliver's photo lab, she finds all the tools and reads all the documents.
I guess if you're looking for a killer, somebody saying that somebody's death shocked them in a diary rules them out.
And then after reading the facts, Jen comes up with a very, very good idea.
I need to start like a timeline of everything. Every single date.
Ren has entered Henry's office and makes plenty of discovery in there.
Wait, hold on. This is from Vivian. I thought she was in on it. Just so you know, your wife was behind all of it. If you have any grudges with her, not me. I was just a witness. Oh!
What's going on, Henry? Why aren't you returning my calls? This is really important.
Was it because he was already dead?
Detective Cetragale then points out to Ren that all the E's are messed up on the threat letter.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good thing to keep an eye on, though, Cetra. You're sleuthing. Oh, this is about Scott. Scott Brooks' body found by Jogger with multiple stab wounds to the heart. This would explain Bernard's bloody knife. Bernard was pretty mad they let Scott go. Yeah. And also, at one point, Charles told him to get rid of Scott. He was like, I wish someone would just get rid of him, but he was talking to Bernard.
I am now arriving at the police station to open the filing cabinet, but I only get through the first document inside it before being thrown a very harsh curveball.
The victim was facing the killer. The killer is strong enough to land such a clean but deadly blow. And the killer is left-handed. Oh wow, it actually could be Bernard.
This curveball is so harsh, in fact, that I then leave the sheriff's office without opening the other drawers, completely preoccupied. The report is accurate, the killer is left-handed, but it's just such a difficult thing to swallow, being that I have no proof of which hand my lead suspect favors.
If we're gonna believe that, there is exactly one piece of evidence that I could find that I will accept that would exonerate Father Brooks from my suspicions, but I don't think I'm going to find it. And that is that we're going to Father Brooks' desk. And we're going to use context clues to find out if he was right or left-handed. His desk is woefully empty. His writing would have like a smudge trail on it, since he'd be moving the other way. But I don't see that, and I don't know if the developers would have thought that far. Left side of his nightstand is the one that has more things on it. Man's comfy chair. Lefty scissors, anything.
It's a good idea I had to come here, to search the furniture for any indication on which hand Matthew favored. But nothing is jumping out at me.
Toilet paper on the right side! I mean, Brooks is almost definitely the murderer. But if this one thing catches us, if he turns out to be right-handed, then fuck. How can... Oh, think, Jamie. How can you figure out if a man was left-handed? By being in his room.
I don't know, Jamie. Does he maybe have a photo of himself on the wall where he's writing with his left fucking hand? Jen doesn't even know that there's a key she should be looking for in a storm drain, but she's still checking everyone she finds now simply because she can.
I assume that whatever it is, I'll probably see it through the grate.
Then she heads to the cemetery with her shovel in search of the time capsule she read about a long time ago.
I think it said by the big rock. Oh, okay.
I don't even want to tell you how long it took me to find that.
The night Vivian died, I saw Scott meeting her. I was at a distance from where they were arguing. I couldn't hear the details, but I could tell they were disagreeing. When Scott left and went back to his cabin, I followed him. I watched him through the window till early morning, all the time thinking how we could have drifted so far. That's fucking creepy. How could Trisha choose him over me? Am I not good enough for her? The police questioned me when Scott was suspected of killing Vivian. I know he didn't do it, but I decided not to tell them what I knew. With Scott locked up, I could have a chance to be with Trisha. I didn't expect that this small omission on my part would eventually lead to Scott's death. When Scott died, Trisha ended her life. In a way, I too died that day. I never wished for Scott to die, nor Trisha. I hope they can forgive me.
The time capsule is an optional plot point altogether, but for Jen, it must make a huge difference, as the letter inside effectively exonerates Derek and Scott in one fell swoop, giving them both an alibi at the time of Vivian's murder. Otherwise, it contains the last chess piece, the pesky bishop, and a map of Painscreek that future Detective Scott drew when he was a kid.
Secret of Painscreek. Secret room above Father's room. Oh, man.
Tyler and Dave now have a key that they found in the sheriff's office lost and found, which they believe to be the key for Steven's glove box in his car, the one with the bloody handprints on it.
Alright, so it can't be the murder weapon in here because the murder weapon is supposed to be an axe.
Yeah. Lockbox.
Lockbox 201. That's in the inn.
Yeah. My head hurts, my tire's flat, and the phone's not working. Is someone trying to stop me from leaving Painscreek? Am I close to discovering something? Oh god, I thought he was the one. I was wrong. He's not the killer. He's not!
Okay. One of the men he thought was the killer wasn't actually the killer.
Which means Matthew, Bernard, or Derek.
Steven's writings continue in the inn in Lockbox 201.
Ever since I received the messages and the key, I've been following this anonymous person blindly. What a fool I have been. I need to revisit my investigation notes and see if I might have missed anything important. I looked through the alibis recorded by Sheriff Howard. There were 6 interviews. Charles,
Yeah,
Matthew...
we got this.
Then I noticed it. One of them is lying. It was recorded that there was an event, yet I remember reading somewhere about it being canceled. Where did I read it again? I can't seem to remember. Oh my god, I just realized that the E in all the killer's message is slightly off in comparison to all the other letters. If I can find that typewriter, I can find who killed Vivian.
I have some strong opinions regarding the inclusion of Stephen Moss's writing here, but for the sake of organization, I will postpone them until the game is over.
Well, we already figured that part out. Alright, that's the end of Steve Moss's story.
He's on to me and I had to hide the key in one of the drains by the roadside. He will never find... Why? What's the button for? Take a picture of that.
What's this? More shit.
Ren has just broken into Dorothy Patterson's bedroom with the key found at the hospital.
Daughter of ex-mayor found dead at hospital. Oh, Trisha fell from the roof. This was the code on the back of Sophia's necklace.
Inside Sophia's box, Ren reads up on the correspondence between Matthew and Sophia.
Soon I won't have him to be a maid anymore. I feel so bad for her. I wish you all the best in your new place. Do invite me there once you've settled in. Oliver Gibson, he's the photographer. So Dorothy moved away. She cleaned his photo lab. Is this the key for the photo lab?
While editing her previous episodes, Jen remembered that the locked briefcase was in Stephen Moss's hotel room. She heads back there pronto, cracks it open, and begins reading the autopsy reports.
Closer inspection reveals punctured lungs with an object similar to a switchblade or a small knife. Top right side of skull, leaning towards the front and above right eye, has a wide crack, usually caused by a sharp object and strong force, like an axe. And Vivian, also exsanguination, 55-year-old white female found laying in front of the mansion gates, pronounced at its scene, also like an axe, it sounds like. Jesus. So here's the thing. Here's my working theory, or part of it. I wrote out my own timeline for everything that happened. I finally did that. And, yeah, it's... Father Matthew is looking more and more suspect to me. Scott told him what he knew about Sophia. He went to go visit Andrew Reed on June 6th. Matthew wrote in his journal, I need Andrew to confess. And then June 6th, Andrew died.
It's the dates every time. All it takes is building a timeline and reviewing your notes for the whole thing to unravel.
But I don't know that Father Matthew would have killed Dr. Johnson and Vivian as well.
Oh, wait.
He wouldn't have killed Scott, right?
Jen has just identified Matthew as a killer, but only Andrew's killer. And she came to this conclusion mostly by way of circumstance, not motive. And furthermore, she's not even sure that he killed Henry and Vivian when he totally did.
I think this maybe holds up to my Bernard killed Scott theory.
Matthew has been elevated to the prime suspect position, and she's also correct that Bernard killed Scott, but she's still having plenty of other doubts about Vivian's death. It's gonna snap into place soon, just you wait.
Motherfucker.
Ren has arrived in the lair of Oliver Gibson.
We regret to hear that Father Matthew will not be joining any part of the religious gathering. Last minute change. Okay. A wrench!
It seems she did not find the shovel, though, which means she will be barred from finding the time capsule, which should theoretically then bar her from opening Charles' desk, although it's pretty easy to brute force it with 3 of the 4 digits. Ren has just received a chat from Simp Knight Gale about whether or not something might have been hidden in a drain. Gale, are you out there reading walkthroughs now?
Oh! It is this.
Now she knows to check the grates, but doesn't know what to check them for. Oh well. Speaking of well,
There's just one thing down here. All tools found. That's how you know you're in the end. Fuck, I'm gonna lose my shit. I will die. I will actually die. If... just get to the top! Over the top! Just... Okay, I can breathe. Never again!
after braving the super scary well of jump scares, I open Sophia's locked chest and begin reading up on the lore inside. This box should contain nothing more than a bunch of redundancies on account of all the sequence breaks I've done, but instead, something else happens here. Something which didn't occur to the other investigators, and I don't believe was ever intended by the developers.
Hang on. Whoa. Whoa, there's no way. The handwriting doesn't match. It doesn't match. This is a letter to Sophia from Matthew, and then this is the one we just found. That's different handwriting. That is downright different handwriting.
Yes, it is definitely different font. Realistically, I think this is a mistake in the document creation that is not supposed to be used in any way to influence the investigation.
There's some big implications if that's intentional. Because, I mean, both letters contain information that only the real Matthew Brooks would be privy to.
But, miraculously, a happy accident connected to this mistake follows.
What if that's the game way of telling us that Father Brooks is ambidextrous, and that one of those letters was written with his left hand and the other was written with his right? That would be the damning detail we're looking for. They were both written by him, but he has two different sets of handwriting depending which hand he writes with.
Even though this technically might be fabrication of evidence, there is nothing out there to debunk this theory. A theory which has ultimately now vindicated me into believing that Matthew Brooks could have wielded an axe left-handed. The Hunch Bunch are guessing Scott's birthday is the combination to Matthew's desk, but it won't work. The real combination is Sophia's birthday, which is 0318. What? Wait, you're not supposed to know that.
Yep, Sophia's birthday.
Oh, that's right.
I received a telegram this morning from Matthew wishing me a happy birthday. Her birthday is March 18th, okay.
The Hunch Bunch learned when Sophia's birthday was and wrote it down, and then made the assumption based off of world building that Matthew would have used her birthday as a combination because she was important to him. So we have a sequence break here, but not by brute force or dumb luck. This is the kind of intuition understanding the world of Painscreek sequence break that Yoshi described as one of the coolest things I've ever seen as a game dev. That's pretty awesome then. Enjoy your spoils, boys.
May 13th, 95. I visited Scott today. I couldn't believe what he said. How could Sophia be dead? Wish I never heard what he said. I wish I could just forget everything. I needed to talk to Andrew. I needed him to confess.
So it's looking a lot like it's Father Matthew.
Father Matthew might have killed one of them, but did he really kill all of them?
Well, Matthew isn't dead. He's one of the few that aren't dead.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, is he doing the thing?
Okay.
I think he's doing the thing.
So, Father Matthew said that he needed to go talk to Andrew and get him to confess. On what day?
June 5th.
Andrew's...
Or July 5th, one of the two.
We don't... it was June 5th, because we don't know exactly when Andrew died, but his funeral was June 19th.
Ah, that's right. They never found the newspaper on the church pew that heralds Andrew's death the day right after Matthew's visitation. Instead, the only evidence they have is that his funeral was 2 weeks after Matthew went to visit him. This just speaks truth to power regarding the importance of exploring thoroughly. But the longer Dave and Tyler sit with this information, the quicker they unravel the truth. After solving the darts puzzle and reading Bernard's diary, they are closer to the solution than ever.
I can't bear to see him suffer anymore. Scott should pay for what he did. I think he killed Scott in revenge for what happened to Vivian.
But what if Matthew killed Vivian, John, and Andrew, but then Bernard killed Scott and the detective?
That's a possibility.
That's a possibility, won't quite cut it for me. They've got the whole thing right except for Bernard killing Steve Moss. If you guys just lock in on who killed Vivian, I'll gladly call that a mystery solution. We now join Bardic Jen, who is cracking open Charles' wall safe with the unconventional date format.
I still don't know what the chess pieces are for. To have someone get rid of him. Did I really say that? How did I get home anyways? Oh right, Bernard was with me. He drove me home.
Thereafter, she goes to the study to try the desk again, when instead she catches on to how to open the secret passageway from earlier. Unfortunately, just like everybody else, it contains nothing but redundant information. Then she bounces over to Bernard's house to solve the darts puzzle, which is especially difficult for her, as I get the impression that she previously did not know the rules to darts. Luckily, a flyer in the inn teaches her how to play, but it's still an extra step to an already aggravating puzzle.
I can't bear to see him suffer anymore. Scott should pay for what he did. Yeah. That's it for Bernard. Bernard killed Scott. And Father Matthew possibly killed the other people.
Jen has now solved Scott's murder and has managed to eliminate Derek, Scott, and Bernard as suspects for Vivian's murder. This places Matthew as her prime, if not only suspect, but she's just not quite believing that he's the one. Until Jen becomes convinced of his guilt, I cannot say she has solved the mystery.
Start at the car, near the entrance to the cemetery, look on the left side of the road.
Oh, that's not good. Ren has just been searching Painscreek for storm drains now that she knows she can open them, which has led her to just search a walkthrough as to which storm drain is important. Ren, you're really not supposed to be doing that yet.
Whoa! There it is. Key with a 19th century design.
Okay, well, Ren might have the key earlier than she's supposed to, but at least she doesn't know where to use it.
Popular design as church keys.
Okay, so the game's item descriptions gave that one away, but there's no shot she'll be able to find the keyhole without the photo of the lamp.
Oh, it's a light fixture.
We have officially achieved apathy. You may have noticed in this episode that I have been showing considerably less Ren footage than the other 3 investigators. Well, that's because I have considerably less Ren footage. Right after opening Oliver's photo lab, she uses a walkthrough to find a key in the storm drain, and then just searched where the extremely well-hidden keyhole was. And so, with the opening of this door, Ren's investigation has come to an end. She missed the items in the sheriff's office, the documents in Stephen's car, the locked drawer in Charles' desk, the secret passage behind the bookcase, the time capsule in the cemetery, the locked box in the tree stump, the incriminating diary in Matthew's desk, and ultimately narrowed down the murder to 4 prime suspects, but was not able to solve the mystery.
Do you think I would ever found this on my own?
Tyler and Dave are now doing the scavenger hunt.
Stump.
Stream.
Okay.
So it's the... Well, we already know that. We know the answer to that.
So now we just have to figure out where Matthew's favorite places are. 1203. There we go. That's what we needed.
They read through Sophia's present and come away with all the right ideas.
So, did he get the ring because he wanted to propose to her, do you think?
He probably did, and then never got the chance because she disappeared. Probably when he got back from that thing, he wanted to propose to her, and then she died, like, soon after.
But he didn't know that.
He didn't know that. They just told her. They told him that she left.
Because she did leave, but then she came back with Vincent, and they killed her.
Over in my neck of the woods, I am receiving a comment chastising me for my hasty investigation skills once more.
So Finda says I did the thing again, where I unlock a set of drawers but only open one of them. No! Check all the drawers.
Backtracking through Painscreek to find the drawers, I end up in Bernard's house, where I finally get around to reading his diaries in the locked room.
This is the 6th time I've followed Vivian. Followed Vivian? Bernard, you just keep on becoming more and more suspicious. I mean, you've got a bloody knife under your floorboards. You didn't even clean up this blood. It's too easy. That's the only reason I'm not saying cuff Bernard Hopkins in irons.
Eventually, from watching my own previous episode on YouTube, I figure out it was the sheriff's office where I failed to open a drawer. Jen has also just arrived at the sheriff's office, so together we read through the documents.
The killer is left-handed. Of course, that was going to come back up. We know that Bernard is left-handed, but to be honest, we don't know if Derek is left-handed. Or Father Matthew.
There's a lost and found, actually. Yo. And there's a key in it.
To the glove box?
But now the time has come for both of these people to read the alibis. Let's cut to the chase. What do we make of Matthew's alibi here?
Interview from Matthew Brooks, who, let's face it, is the killer.
There's an annual religious gathering event in Hartford where pastors from different churches in our state's vicinity meet and discuss what we can do to help our society. The event started July 18th and ran for 5 days. I represent Painscreek. Oh, but you didn't go.
Yep, that one's not going to sneak past Jen.
We did actually find a document somewhere, it was so long ago, that confirmed that Father Brooks did not attend this event, right?
That told me that Father Matthew is bullshitting the sheriff.
Now inside the glove box, let's see where Stephen's notes take our heroes.
Oh god, I thought he was the one. I was wrong. He's not the killer. He's not.
Who writes that? Who plays the pronoun game that hard?
At this point, playing Painscreek solo and blind induces extreme paranoia.
Nobody's watching me, are they? They were watching Steven, I think this was 2 years ago. It's 1999 now, right? Nobody is here anymore, right?
For a moment, I wrestled with the possibility that I have been masterfully baited into suspecting Matthew when it was actually Bernard the whole time. But I quickly resumed the correct solution.
That could literally mean Bernard or Brooks. Because, he thought it was gonna be Bernard because everyone was sprinkling Bernard crumbs on him. I told you guys, I'll bet that's it. I told you that someone was framing Bernard, and it was probably Brooks. But I don't even know if Brooks has a motive to resist. I mean, what is Brooks living for?
A true sense of finality approaches as the players open the lockbox.
Ever since I received the messages and the key, I've been following this anonymous person blindly. What a fool I have been.
I have never seen this sconce in my life.
What button? Where is this?
Where is this sconce? Is this here?
He's on to me. I had to hide the key in one of the drains. God damn it.
Ah! What's in the book? I looked through the alibis records by Sheriff Howard. There were 6 interviews. Charles, Matthew, Bernard, Dorothy, Mary, and Derek. Then I noticed it. One of them is lying. It was recorded that there was an event, yet I remember reading somewhere about it being canceled. It was canceled. Father Brooks was canceling it.
Jen goes out to search for more storm drains and hopes she'll finally find that key, while I re-examine the lamp photo to see if there is any missing context.
This is in the church, isn't it? I'll bet that's how we get to the attic that we heard about.
Right on both counts.
No, I was just overreacting. This game's not scary. No, dude, this game's terrifying.
Once again, Dave and Tyler now come face to face with their greatest adversary, unconventional date formats.
I don't fucking know.
Wait, hold on.
It's supposed to be Vincent's birthday.
Yeah.
Jesus help us, take the wheel.
While Tyler appeals to Christ, Dave instead appeals to the internet.
Are you fucking kidding? Go back to the gallery. 1975.
I don't... Who puts it in like that? Well, we were on the right
We had the answer. Oh, there's the king.
The king.
Tyler roundhouse kicks the microphone off his desk as Dave begins reading the will.
I, Charles Roberts of 1 Maple Pine Drive, Painscreek.
They comb through the contents of Charles' safe, but ultimately find nothing of particular interest.
King, knight, queen,
Wow,
bishop.
you are a fucking idiot. We're gonna clean him for all he's worth. Bishop. No, knight. Bishop. No, bishop and then knight.
Did we find the bishop?
No, they have not yet found the bishop. Only Jen has found him, because he's buried in the cemetery time capsule. Dave and Tyler don't know that though, so instead they go the Columbo way of things, and try every single digit 1 through 9 until they get the right one.
Oh
Thank
my
God.
god.
It would be the last one.
Right.
In this desk are some letters from private investigators who looked into the deaths of Vivian, Henry, and Andrew, as well as the disappearance of Sophia. This ultimately results in Charles learning the truth about Sophia's vanishing, but the tone in which he writes suggests he had no interest in seeking revenge.
Is this my punishment for the affair I had 20 years ago? And that's his story.
Then they open Vivian's desk and read her journal, where they learn she was, in fact, not having an affair.
Huh. Okay. But it doesn't seem related, you know?
No.
After these lackluster revelations, they resolve to focus on the same thing.
What we need to do is find that key that Stephen hid in the drain.
And he said it was by a roadside.
Meanwhile, Jen is searching for the key when the sheer weight of her intellect causes her to plummet through the Earth's crust.
Oh fuck. Uh-oh. Oh no.
After lowering her heart rate, Jen stops looking for the key and instead looks for the keyhole. Her search begins in the church as Matthew has become her prime suspect.
Oh yeah, there's a button there. Push. Ah, you motherfucker.
Hereafter, Jen goes on a long walk across Painscreek in search of advancement. She returns to Andrew's house to see if she missed anything in the ruins, and she goes to the mansion to look for tea time. The whole way through, she's also checking storm drains for that missing key, but hasn't found the one she needs. Poor Jen even hypothesizes that the key in question could have washed away long ago, so she goes to the sewers and combs the ground of the entire tunnel network, hoping to find the key. She does not. At one point, Jen actually backtracks all the way to Scott's cabin and stumbles across the key to Matthew's bedroom she missed in part 2.
What the fuck?
In the same return trip, she examines Scott's typewriter, where she identifies the E's on it to be decisively normal.
So it was a different typewriter that someone wrote those messages on.
This is another point in favor of Scott's innocence. In Matthew's room, she reads up more on his life story and close affiliations with Sophia.
I see. So this is how you figure out where his one of his favorite places is.
But ultimately finds nothing to push her forward.
Yeah, that was all. I was supposed to find this stuff earlier, I think.
At one point, I take a break looking for keys to return to Andrew's house to see if I can't use new information to explain what happened in his bedroom.
Nope, I can't explain it. And 4 us on the wall?
Doesn't help that I still haven't figured out this door can be closed to reveal a larger message. And I probably never will.
Gosh, the us in that statement, who is it at? Is that Matthew and Sophia?
Then, looking for the storm drain, Dave and Tyler finally find their conviction.
So my current leaning is that it's Matthew who killed Vivian.
I agree.
Because I mean, it just lines up too perfectly. Like, he was angry at what Vivian, John, and Andrew did to Sophia.
And we know that he went to go see Andrew before Andrew burned.
Right.
This solution occurs at the best possible moment, in that the game kept them fooled for 95% of the story, allowing them to be highly engaged and speculative for most of the playtime, while still snatching the satisfaction of solving the case at the 11th hour. This is peak performance from any mystery. Absolutely magnificent.
We're pretty sure we know who did it. We're pretty sure we've solved at least 4 other murders.
First, though.
But we need the murder weapon.
Their search for the storm drain continues, but unfortunately, is spoiled by Dave's insistence that they just search a guide.
I'm gonna just look it up. Since we obviously know what we're looking for.
Yeah, why not? The key can be hard to see, really, you don't say.
That is a clock key, isn't it? No, that's not a clock key. A
Popular
church
design
key.
Church key.
You boys always know just how to disappoint me. Not 1 minute after you solve the murder, you go and spoil the last damn puzzle of the game. You think you're entitled to...
Jamie,
Did he just...
do you know how long we wandered around that town? We'll use a guide if we feel like it.
How are you...
Shut up.
My worst nightmares aside, we can now at least see evidence that this key can be found without spoilers.
Father Brooks. Oh, look at this. Look at this bitch. Look at this. Really. It was the one I couldn't find. Popular design as church keys during the 19th century. So it's a key to something in the church. Oh no, the game really is ending now, isn't it?
The end is nigh. Dave and Tyler are looking through the church for doors and drawers that have not yet been opened, but there are none. And then Dave starts thinking.
The attic. Because he said that...
What?
He said that there's 2 things that we're missing. One is where this key goes. 2
Yeah.
is the lamp that had the button on it.
Yes, but what, like...
There's an attic in here too.
This
yes. Because he said he carves wood in the attic. And that's the key. The lamp moved.
Yeah, I pressed the... Oh, duh.
Around the same time, I come face to face with a screen that looks eerily familiar to the photo that I found.
Mr. Fluffers, we're doing this together. I think we found a way into the attic.
And now, Dave, Tyler, myself, and Mr. F have all made it to the end of Act 3. The final act. There is but one player who remains in Painscreek, and though she has yet to pull the trigger on Matthew, she has uncovered many of his dark deeds and even pinned a separate murder on him. More important than her investigation, Bardic Jen maintains her integrity, being the only participating player in this experiment who is still adhering to the developer's wishes. But now she is at her lowest. In her entire playthrough, Jen has never been stumped to the likes of this. All that she has left to do is to find the key in the storm drain, but she can't seem to find the right one. She searched all over Painscreek, above and below, even scouring the sewers to see if the rain might have washed the key down there somehow. We join her now at this darkest hour, having just turned Painscreek upside down, seemingly to no avail.
I went around to most of the buildings that I've been in already, and I haven't had any miraculous revelations except for this one thing that I found. I actually noticed some markings on here. It's so faint. This is ridiculous.
Okay, this is good news. The documents inside Charles's desk won't actually bring her any closer to the end of the game, but it is now one less subplot to distract her. Her time played on Steam is now crossing 16 hours, well above the average playthrough for this game. You're so close, Jen. Just stick with it.
Want to just look up, like, where to find out where tea time is.
No, Jen, please don't do that.
Right now, it's either look up the answer or brute force this.
Please just brute force it. There's only 720 possible configurations.
I don't know what to do. One thing I'm gonna check first is I know there's a flyer in the church that has like some schedules on it. I don't think there's a tea time on there, but I just want to check.
Oh no, we're really desperate now. Jen goes to the church, of all places, to look for tea time, and doesn't find it there.
Yeah, okay, so this has times on it, but no, like, tea time.
In the process, she crosses by the storm drain containing the key twice, totally oblivious to its location. Afterwards, she heads back to the Roberts McMansion to search again for the godforsaken tea time, when, finally, her search takes her to the veranda, and... Come on, it's on your right, on the floor. Yes, that's it. Pick it up. Yes! Let's fucking go.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I found it. This is tea time. Oh my god, it was just this note that blended right into the woodwork.
The opening of this clock will now eliminate yet another pesky subplot from Jen's focus.
Okay, that was something that didn't really give me a lot of new information. I already knew, well, I guess I suspected. Now I have hard proof that Henry and Vivian conspired to kill Magdalene and that they did it.
Now, there is exactly one thing left to do. Locate the key in the storm drain. And poor Jen has become so discouraged that she's beginning to doubt if that key even exists in the game.
I guess it's also possible that the person chasing Steve found the key before we did. Maybe it isn't even there at all. Usually I would say to somebody in this situation, well, read through all your information that you have again. But I've done that a couple of times now.
Jen even comes back to the inn and re-examines the circumstances of this key hunt.
And you know, if this is the key to Father Matthew's secret room that he's talking about, then it would make more sense that Father Matthew's the one that's after him. Like, even more sense.
You're right. That's perfectly plausible.
And Father Matthew is the one that's obviously lying about where he was.
So what you're saying is, Matthew killed Vivian?
You know, it's possible that Bernard killed Vivian on accident.
Ah, so close.
Oh my god, I have to check. I'm just so flabbergasted by how I have not found a grate with this key in it. It can't be far from his car, right?
And then, at the height of her search, Jen's footage suddenly cuts to her walking down Silver Lake Boulevard. She says nothing.
All keys found. Oh, we're really endgaming here.
Jen didn't seem particularly enthusiastic about finding this grate. Some of that might just be who Jen is, but another part of me can't help but be afraid. Is it possible that in between those edits, did she give in? I had to know, so immediately after I got to this point in the footage, I rapidly sent Jen an email. Politely and calmly, like I hadn't just spent the last 3 hours studying her playing this video game, I asked her, at any point in your playthrough of the Painscreek Killings, did you receive help from the internet or any external source? And later that day, Jen wrote back to me. She said, no. Later on, I'd like to get into the specifics of that email she sent me, but for now, I would like to share a sentiment that she imparted. Jen has been very flattered by the reception she's gotten in this series of Painscreek, and has taken notice of everyone's high praise of her deduction skills. But she would also like to temper our expectations of her being some infallible sleuth, and remind us all that she is not a career detective. I believe she says in her playthrough that she's an editor, the literary kind, but that's besides the point. What's important is that Jen is an ordinary person, just like you and me. And she has now proven that ordinary people like us can beat the Painscreek Killings, spoiler-free.
This better give us something actionable to do too, because I've got nothing after this.
Oh my goodness, they've done it. They've all done it. It's amazing. So, I think that at last, we can provide our investigators with the hard-earned privilege of driving the nail in the coffin. Let's see what Father Brooks keeps in his attic.
That's right. Scott wrote about him doing woodworking up here. Oh no.
Fucking knew there was an attic.
Oh no, Father Matthew, you've been a bad, bad boy.
Oh shit!
He could have been up here watching us this entire time.
Yup.
Someone came to Painscreek. She cannot know.
This is the typewriter, Cetra.
She.
Someone came to Painscreek. She cannot know. Who cannot know?
Steve came to Painscreek. Who is she?
You is she.
We need to run.
It's looking bad for Father Matthew. Yes, it is.
I don't like the way I can't move and it pauses.
June 6th, 1995. I met Andrew in the evening at his house. He was hallucinating when we met, saying that he's seen Sophia everywhere, that he's a sinner, and that he should die. But I didn't mean to kill him. My hands are still shaking. Dr. Johnson came. He was surprised to see me. He tried to justify, saying it wasn't his fault, that he was only carrying the baby and had nothing to do with Sophia's death. When I revealed the truth about Magdalene, his face turned white. He didn't expect anyone to know the truth. He deserved to die. Just like the doctor, Vivian came alone. Instead of feeling guilty, she called Sophia a bitch who destroyed everything she had. I didn't feel any sign of remorse, feeling of guilt, or repentance from her at all. So I gave her time to express herself. And then I killed her.
We've done it. We've got the man, the motive, the murder weapon, and what's better, we've got his confession on tape. You could not ask for a cleaner, steeper bookend to any mystery. All doubt has been removed. But even though the mystery has been solved, the Painscreek Killings is not over yet.
I've been looking forward to this.
Ah, fuck.
You cannot save.
Fuck!
Fuck!
Oh shit.
Oh boy.
After spending some hundreds of hours studying our heroes' behavior, I have been looking forward to seeing how they deal with a crisis.
Shit!
The Hunch Bunch makes for the front door, but are dismayed to find it chained shut.
Where do I go?
I don't know.
After finding it chained, Ren sprints up the balcony and nearly runs straight into Matthew. And I am now feeling the unwanted vindication that after all this time, there really was a hoodie guy in Painscreek. Oh, but the most remarkable must be Jen. Poor Bardic Jen, who has never played a horror game, whose response is to hide behind the desk.
I'm not here.
Yes, if the first topic that appears in a discussion about the Painscreek Killings is its refreshing and bold approach to the mystery genre, the second, invariably, is how in the last 10 minutes, it becomes a horror game. As I mentioned before, seasoned fans of the horror genre might find this encounter to be laughably unscary, but I must remind you that players like Jen are not used to this sort of encounter. I mean, look at how she's handling it. She's peeking behind corners as if she's really in there, in the building with an axe murderer.
Fuck. Go! Oh my god, it's locked. Fuck.
After the initial shock of Sophia revealing herself once again, players realize she is not here to harm but to help.
God. Fuck you, Sophia.
Downstairs, down to the basement.
Ghost of Sophia's telling me to get out? It's an exit now?
She guides us to the locked door in the basement, which is magically open now. I can only assume that ghost logic is to account for this.
So there are supernatural elements in this game, I knew it!
The chase continues into the sewers where Jen is doing her best to not have a heart attack.
I hate this. My heart is going so fucking fast. I hate this so much.
Where do I go?
Not that way.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, God.
Oh no, 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 no! No!
Oh. Oh, okay. We have a health meter. Good to know.
Hello, friend. I'm gonna go towards you.
An opened door? I see you. Is this the way to the hospital?
Oh, fuck, it's the hospital.
Oh, this is the fucking hospital. No.
Fuck this hospital. He locked it?
Where are you taking me?
That door's locked.
Are we leading him to the roof?
Oh my god, he's fucking sprinting!
Ah, fuck. I don't want to do this anymore. I think I might just quit this fucking game. I think I'm done.
Under pressure, the Hunch Bunch and Ren perform magnificently. They trust Sophia's ghost and follow her to the rooftop, where the ending cutscene will play for them. Jen and myself, though...
Which stairwell was it? Mr. F, please!
I hate this so much. Like, so much. I don't think you guys understand. I'm shaking. You know what? I'm done. This was... We could not, we couldn't save, we couldn't find out what happened to Vivian, or maybe we found out, but no one else is gonna know.
I always hated this hospital! There's no escape.
To Janet, where are you? You were supposed to be in Painscreek for a day or two. It's been over a week. We're worried about you. I was killed by an axe murderer, so thank you for sending me on that assignment.
Journalist missing. Have you seen her?
You could check the last place I was, maybe. Let's keep sending reporters here. Somebody will succeed eventually.
Who could have ever guessed that after all the trouble she went through, Bardic Jen would never leave Painscreek alive? The truth of the killings never gets out. Until the next day when her curiosity got the better of her.
Okay, so I've been thinking about it, and I can do this.
I also reloaded the save, but not before I used a walkthrough to go find the things that I missed, like the time capsule in the cemetery. This time, we all run to the rooftop and catch up to the Hunch Bunch and Ren. At the end of all ends, I will let the game play out.
Oh, cutscene. Okay, all right.
I'm glad you made it back safely and uncovered the truth about the Painscreek Killings. Good job! Your story will be on the front of tomorrow's newspaper. Please submit the following information, as well as a photo for your article as soon as possible. Okay.
P.S. By the way, we found out who hired P.I. Stephen Moss. Who killed Vivian Roberts?
That was Matthew Brooks.
Yep.
What was the murder weapon? An axe?
I took this photo with this in mind.
I don't really have any other good photos.
The bloody axe?
I should have taken a picture of Father Brooks chasing me with an axe. That would have been gold.
The proper ending of the game here plays out the same as an early exit from Painscreek, with an added bonus. The game now confirms that Dorothy Patterson hired Stephen Moss, and Janet, who is the player character, sends a letter to her on his behalf. Through this bittersweet letter, the developers impart the ultimate message they entrusted their game to carry.
My name is Janet Kelly. I'm here to inform you on behalf of P.I. Steve Moss that the secret of the Painscreek Killings have come to light.
He is, however, missing. Police are searching for his whereabouts. While preparing for this letter, I could not help wonder, what if Charles didn't commit adultery? What if Vivian had not confronted Sophia?
What if Magdalene hadn't insisted on a son to continue the family line? Could things have turned out differently? In hindsight, it's easy to say what they should not have done.
Sometimes it's hard to make the right choices in life, isn't it? Did Derek really hate Scott so much that it led to his death? Could Matthew not have sought revenge for Sophia?
Why did Henry Johnson choose to be an accomplice in Magdalene's death? Well, Vivian had some shit on him, I think. The truth was that everyone made a choice they thought was the best, but not necessarily the right one.
We have the freedom to say or do whatever we want, but there are consequences following our actions. The bigger the mistake, the harsher the consequence.
It was true that Charles and Sophia's affair was wrong, but Vivian had a choice, either to confront Charles about it, or take it out on Sophia. She chose the latter. Just as Vivian made her choice, so did Andrew, Henry, and Matthew. In the end, they all had to face the consequences.
One thing puzzled me. If Steve and I were both trying to find the truth, why was I saved but not him? Oh, I hope I can find the answer someday. I was wondering that too myself, actually. Why was Sophia showing herself to us? I love the clue. Matthew Brooks killed Vivian with an axe.
Was I right, though? Was I right, though?
This was a cool game.
I really enjoyed
That was really good.
I enjoyed that a lot.
I kind of disliked the fact that they spelled it out at the end.
83%? I only got 83%?
Look, 90% complete grade A detective.
Damn, we're good.
98% grade A rank detective. What's the 2%?
100% complete. Does that mean that I literally found everything?
Yes, it does. Jen, you 100%ed the Painscreek Killings on a blind, spoiler-free playthrough.
We did figure out most of it before the reveal.
Also, 83 is a huge amount. That's a B minus. It said it was an A.
Immediately after the credits, I take to the walkthrough to try to find things I missed, enamored by the idea of a non-linear mystery game.
Whoa. Look at this. Oh.
Despite its flaws, this was really fun. This is like really solid entry into the mystery genre here. I personally love the lack of map markers and just having to find stuff all on my own.
This game had an insane amount of detail. Yeah, it did. It was crazy.
Oh, they're making a new game called Scene Investigators? I'm down.
Well, I will see you guys on Tuesday. And I hope you have a lovely night.
Otherwise, thanks again to everyone who recommended this. Thank you so much to everyone who watched this playthrough.
We did it.
Did it.
You and
Oh,
I.
yeah.
Detective and Note Boy.
Detective and Note Boy. Look up in the sky. It's a magnifying glass
It's a Note Boy.
and a notepad? What the fuck?
All secrets revealed, all truths are known, and there are no emails from concerned readers questioning the efficacy of their solution. And from this unique experience, I trust we'll all remember that... Wait, what? Cetra Gale was a woman the whole time? Here at the end, there is much to discuss. In keeping with previous customs, I think it is only fair that we address Act 3 the same way we did for the previous two. All we need do is slightly retune the question. Before entering Father Matthew's attic, how many of our investigators had solved the mystery? Truth be told, the answer is 2. Yes, calm yourself, you rowdy bunch. This might come as a shock. While Hedwig Wren positively did not solve the mystery before the reveal, as a consequence of searching spoilers, I have come to the difficult conclusion, after great consideration, that Bardic Jen did not solve the mystery either. My first reason for believing so is that while Jen managed to isolate Father Matthew as a likely suspect, she never did say with certainty that she believed him to be the killer. As clearly stated before, a solution only counts when the detectives believe in their theory. She certainly believed that Bernard killed Scott, but only ever made use of ifs and maybes to refer to the possibility that Matthew was the killer. My other piece of evidence that Jen did not solve the mystery is an email from Jen where she explicitly tells me she did not solve the mystery before entering the attic. So yeah, there's really no fighting with that one. Jen claims that at the time she entered the attic, she was still caught between multiple suspects, namely Bernard and Matthew. To reiterate, this is by no means a bad thing. If anything, Jen had a more successful playthrough than I did. In hers, she was left wondering to the end, whereas I ended up closing my investigation sooner than I would have liked. So, from our 4 investigators, the solution range looks as follows. 1 early solution, 1 remarkably late in the game, and 2 Matthew surprises right at the very end. And thus, our small data pool suggests that the Painscreek Killings, with a 50% solve rate, is a fair and balanced mystery, with most solutions skewed to the late third act. This data is insightful in its own way, being that we had the extreme privilege to watch every inch of these players' investigations, but as far as studies go, it is not terribly precise. So now, let's get a little rowdy and add 48 of your own responses to the mix. Drumroll, please. I believe that this is what you might call a histogram, but don't ask me, I only made the thing. Introducing a larger sample size into this experiment has shown us some more refined and quite contrasting results. So now, sit back and relax while I spit some fascinating numbers at you. The first thing to note is the ratio of solutions to reveals. 36 of our volunteers managed to solve the mystery, while 16 found out the truth the hard way. After a little bit of rounding, this comes down to a pretty clean 70-30 split. A strong majority of players are likely to solve the mystery on their own before the end. And now, let's go ahead and discount that 30 and work out what went into the 70. There's some pretty remarkable stuff in there. In descending order, the majority of these solutions came from Act 2, right in the middle of the story, with 39% of total playthroughs solving the solution then. Not so far behind, 27% of players found the solution in Act 3 prior to the reveal, and then, astoundingly, 4% of players purport to have solved Vivian's murder in Act 1. We'll talk about that 4% in a minute. For now, let's keep splitting numbers. To begin with, 2 people solved it right away when they read in Dorothy's diary that Matthew had a crush on Sophia, and 2 more solved it thereafter when they made the deduction that Matthew was the one who left fresh flowers at the unmarked grave. After that, 3 more managed to sequence break and open the tree stump, which blew the top off the mystery that way. 1 claims to have had the solution click while reading Scott's first journal in the cabin, and 7 more quickly followed, reading about Matthew's relationship with Sophia. I was one of these 7. And then, those who weren't quite convinced of Matthew's involvement at that time were then vindicated at the end of Act 2, when they read the words in Scott's diary that Scott told Father Matthew everything. That's 20 people who solved things on the earlier side, 5 of them right on the cusp of Act 3. Inside Act 3, excluding the reveal, we had 14 solutions. The first solution comes in Henry's office with his fax to Charles that never got sent. This detective by the name of Asimir was actually holding Charles Roberts as the lead suspect, but after learning he was never told about Sophia's death, he readjusted his theory and quickly tried on Matthew as the theoretical killer. It fits so well that he became convinced at that moment that he was the true murderer. Very close together then, we have 2 investigators who did what I could not. They found the picture of Matthew writing with his left hand and were completely sold on his guilt immediately afterwards. Then came a large party of 7 who realized the truth just after finding the facts in the photo lab, proving Matthew lied in his alibi. Whether or not they found the alibi or the facts first is unclear, but all the same, the two things combined and led to their solution. Finally, there came 4 scattered solutions after looking into Steven's glove box, including the Hunch Bunch. These 4 cut it remarkably close to the end, but still managed to find the truth before it came chasing after them with an axe. And then, bizarrely, a whopping 2 solutions occurred in Act 1. I think an asterisk belongs next to both of these solutions, seeing as both players were convinced Matthew was the killer, even though they were yet to establish any kind of motive. By this rationale, I think it is most realistic to say that the solution range truly begins in Act 2, where players read Dorothy's journal, as this was the first legit instance recorded where players had solved the mystery. But let's go ahead and hear out these 2 clairvoyants anyways. The first one I am not terribly impressed by, as a player just purports that they are a good guesser, and made the bold bet immediately after reading the logbook in the hospital that the priest who kept visiting the murdered woman's daughter was the killer. The second one, though, is definitely worth mentioning. A user by the name of Roseboro became convinced Matthew was the killer in Act 1, the first time she visited the church, for a meta reason. Matthew was depicted in both a portrait in his desk and also in a photo on the wall. This player was extremely sus of why such a low-budget game would go through the trouble of rendering a character from multiple angles. Unless it was because he was the killer, and later on you would encounter the same person. Once again, Roseboro didn't have an inch of the motive, but she had him dead to rights. This character is the killer, and he had extra photos generated of himself to help the investigation later on. So yeah, in an exploitative Columbo sort of way, I can see why a player might come to the conclusion this early that Matthew was the killer. Rest assured though, this is an outlier among the outliers, but I still thought I'd share. Some other worthy anecdotes: one detective named Leafman, who solved the mystery at the end of Act 2, says that he never actually checked the tombstones in the cemetery, expecting them to be the names of Kickstarter backers. As a result, he was later blindsided and crushed by the news that Scott and Tricia were both dead. Similarly, a detective named One Violet Rose was ultimately caught by the reveal at the end, though she had been aware of evidence on Matthew for some time. She claims the reason she didn't accuse him of being the killer was simply because she didn't want it to be him. She liked Matthew too much and felt for his and Sophia's tragedy, and didn't want to believe that he would go to such heartless lengths to seek revenge. Yao Bikuni, who solved the mystery in Act 2 through the fresh flowers, also claims that the sheer enormity of orphans in the story helped her to crack the case. As soon as she heard of Charles's affair, she was certain that Scott was his bastard son, and continued building off of this prejudice to achieve the solution early on. Also, Yao Bikuni claims that after finding the flowers, having the power go out, and observing the unfortunate circumstances Stephen Moss's car was left in, that she was adamantly expecting a lethal confrontation at the end of the game. Well, that makes one of us. Speaking of lethal confrontation, I do know of at least one detective by the name of Velvet Wendy who noped out of the Painscreek Killings as soon as the game told them they could no longer save. Outside of this study, I have heard from many, many people that they abandoned Painscreek and never touched it again after the ending chase began. To clarify, this more precise data pool, comprised of 52 separate playthroughs, is not to be taken as gospel, as there is no real way to verify any of these answers. But if we abide by the honor code and assume that this is mostly accurate data, then we can infer the following. The Painscreek Killings is a more than fair mystery that favors the player finding the solution early. A majority of these intuited solutions occur in the second act, which is commonly agreed to be a little too early, but more than half of the players still have the privilege of going into Act 3 in search of the truth. Abiding by the conventions we set in place at the beginning of Part 1, I am inclined to say that this is something of an easy mystery. An easy mystery that is still, above all else, fair and fun to solve. With the most of that data's usefulness now behind us, we are on to the other grand question. The big, did it work question. At the end of Act 3, are players solving the puzzles and successfully progressing through the game without hints? After everything we've been through, having watched, annotated, and edited everyone's playthrough, I am inclined to say no. This is a difficult answer to arrive at, but it does not come without nuance. Of course, I cannot say that the Painscreek Killings has outright failed at its goal, Bardic Jen and her well-documented playthrough are living proofs that this game can be beaten completely blind, the way it was intended. As an added bonus, Jen 100%ed the game blind, meaning there is not a single thing in Painscreek that is truly impossible to uncover on your own. But paired with the other well-documented playthroughs, a plethora of discussions I've seen online, and the existence of the atrocious darts puzzle, I must come to the conclusion that in an average playthrough of the Painscreek Killings, the average Joe is going to get frustrated and turn to the internet for help. True to what Ferry said, it's safe to say that the Painscreek experience is damaged by searching for hints, but some of the worst design snags in this game can cause just as much if not more damage to a player's immersion and enjoyment. Act 3 was definitely an improvement from some of the pitfalls of Act 2, but we still did have one significant snag that forced several players' hands to search the internet. That would be the storm drain key. If you wanted to provide the players with yet another safety net to make finding this storm drain easier, perhaps you could have had all the storm drains marked on the map of the town's sewers. That way, in the worst case scenario, a struggling player will only have to check every drain on the list, ensuring that they will find it eventually. Act 3 did have some other problems, like the needless change of the date format for Charles' safe. I'm a little conflicted on this one, because on one hand it is definitely obstructive game design to utilize multiple date formats, especially when one is so unusual, but on the other hand it is a point toward realism, that not every character formats dates the same way. That's really getting down to splitting hairs though. At the end of the day, here is the important meaning behind my no. In its release, I believe that this game contains some hiccups in its design that ultimately detract from the experience the developers intended. But, and this is a very important but, there is no reason why the Painscreek Killings, or any game like it, couldn't function flawlessly. Had this game received more playtest feedback, I am confident that many of these kinks would have been identified and worked out before release. I think now is about as good of a time as any to address why I titled the video the way I did. The ending of the Painscreek Killings is shrouded in controversy, of course, as many of the players were not at all prepared to be chased by a man with an axe. This ending may appear completely out of the blue to some players, but you know what I'm gonna say. The Painscreek Killings has been a horror game in disguise since the very beginning. Now, I recognize that's something of an incendiary statement, so allow me to clarify my meaning. By no means did Ferry Tomy or anyone on his team intend to trick people into playing a horror game. Speaking with him in the interview, he tells me that they never saw any part of Painscreek, not even the ending, as explicitly horror. The idea was to create an exciting and serious ending to an otherwise casual, slow game. I believe the term adrenaline was used. And what's more, Ferry felt that this ending didn't come out of the blue, and that the whole time they had been foreshadowing little things to the player to tell them that they weren't alone in Painscreek. Things like the fresh flowers and the power going out in the hospital taught players like myself, Jen, the Hunch Bunch, and Yaobi Kuni that there was someone else in the town and we shouldn't let our guard down. The trouble is, not every player noticed these circumstances. Some of the ones who did clearly didn't expect the game to pony up and murder them at the very end. I even mentioned to Ferry that one of the players I sampled, the one who 100%ed the game without using any spoilers, was so shocked by the sudden ending that she hid behind the desk for several minutes before even trying to escape. To this, Ferry had to say,
Sorry about that.
To be clear, Ferry is not a troll. There is not a malicious bone in this man's body, and he and his team truly did not realize just how scary their game was. In isolation, there really doesn't seem to be anything so scary about finding fresh flowers in a cemetery or having the power suddenly go out in a hospital. But this is a game that builds and builds and builds on dread, not so dissimilar from how Scratches performs. By the second act, a seasoned horror fan like myself will become extremely paranoid at all times that he is being watched. And by the third act, I will be genuinely frightened to explore this abandoned town any further. I was actually informed through a comment on a previous episode that there's another jump scare so rare that not only did none of our investigators trigger it, but I didn't even know it existed. The first time you head to the Roberts mansion, if you shut the front doors of the house behind you, at some point during your exploration of the house there's a chance that this can occur.
Actually. Is that me? I didn't click on anything.
How fucked is that? I can only assume that this one isn't supposed to be a ghost. This is Matthew knocking at the door. So yes, when you combine all the latent spooks that have been lurking in the background of this game, I think I must politely disagree with the developers and say that the Painscreek Killings is a slow burn horror every bit as much as it is a mystery game. That doesn't mean it must then tag itself as a horror game on Steam though. I really do think if you gave the player any sort of bracing for what's to come, the scares would immediately lose all potency. Worse yet, if you marketed this as a horror game, you might attract actual horror fans, who would then be underwhelmed by 10 to 12 hours of mystery gameplay. There then could be a whole other discussion about the ethics of making a game like this that ends with such an unexpected and violent confrontation. But that sounds kinda boring, even for me. Need I state the obvious that if the ending confrontation is too scary for you, well, the game has given you the opportunity to leave since the very beginning. Maybe there we have finally found a valid function for the leave early mechanic, an exit strategy for fans who don't want the smoke. Though not of any real importance, I did receive a number of comments asking me to address the story of Steve Moss as it appears in Act 3, seeing as it is remarkably confusing. Steven's story is very poorly explained and may appear to the character as though it's full of plot holes. And it kind of is, requiring lots of contrivance and narrative forgiveness to make sense of it. So let's walk through it from the beginning. Stephen Moss is investigating Painscreek in 1997. He has been hired by Dorothy Patterson and is speaking to the few people who still remain there, when he begins receiving anonymous letters from Matthew Brooks. They are telling him about how the killer is really Bernard Hopkins, and that evidence can be found in this house. Then, at some point, Matthew decides that Stephen is getting too close to the truth. This comes to a head when Matthew follows Stephen into the morgue and then clobbers him over the back of the head, Nancy Drew style. This is why we find all of Stephen's belongings on the floor of the morgue. I guess he just dropped them there when he got conked. I should also clarify that the only reason I know this happened is because the devs told me so in the interview. There's basically no way to figure this out in the game. But here's the real crazy, real hard to swallow part. After Matthew knocks Stephen out cold, he drags him back to his car in the middle of Painscreek, bleeding, and throws him in the passenger side seat. Or maybe Stephen comes to with a concussion and wanders back to his car, and that's why we see his bloody handprint on the glove box and his journal inside saying his head hurts. But the same journal also says that his car won't start, and that feels like someone is trying to stop him from leaving Painscreek. Of course, it's Matthew who's trying to stop him from leaving, and eventually Matthew totally murders Steve Moss. But why then did he not just murder him outright in the morgue of the hospital? From here, Stephen hides his key in the storm drain and then slumps into the inn, bleeding, where nobody sees him, I guess, and stows his crucial evidence in the lockbox. And then he disappears. As a rule, I try not to question how different keys and journals in this game got to be where they are. As soon as you do that, you quickly find yourself trying to explain a billion plot contrivances left and right. But wow, this is really pushing the envelope here. Why then is Stephen Moss in this game at all, when it seems that his removal or reduction would make the suspension of disbelief that much easier? Two reasons, once again. The first is that Stephen is, and always has been, the failsafe for struggling players. His journals openly address his recent deductions that you should be making too, and the one time he tries to mislead you with the Bernard red herring subplot, he later rectifies it and admits that Bernard was not the killer. As I alluded to before, I am staunchly against all of this. Ferry and Yoshi told me that they constantly went back and forth whether the game was too easy or too difficult in its alpha, and the inclusion of Stephen's diaries seems like an overcompensation in the direction of trying to make the game easier. And the second reason why Stephen is in the game is that, in a very early draft of the game, I believe he was once the player character. Originally, it was supposed to be that we got clobbered over the head in the morgue and woke up bleeding at our car in the town square. For a multitude of reasons, they eventually demoted Stephen to a side character whose footsteps we follow, but they still clung on to some of the classic mystery tropes that they had already developed for him and left in the backdrop of Painscreek. Seems to me like something that could have and perhaps should have been cut altogether, but at least it is not as confusing or damaging to the narrative as the snafu at the end of Act 2, with Scott investigating something he already knows. And now for what must be our final topic of discussion. What did our detectives have to say when all was said and done? In addition to the candid thoughts that they shared in their videos, I did also email each of our investigators to ask for any final comments on the Painscreek Killings as a whole. I will now share the responses I received, beginning with Hedge Witch Wren. Wren prefaces her final remarks by saying she doesn't have anything so profound to say. However, I do want to say that it was the most authentic detective experience I've ever had in a game. Since I finished it, I've been scrounging the internet for games in a similar vein, but nothing seems to hold a candle to the independent experience of TPK. I can only hope that some generous and kindly developers take pity on people like me and make something similar in the future. Very true that there are few games out there with any similarities to the Painscreek Killings. But you know what? Many people have told me about games that are functionally and thematically similar to this game, though we all agree that there is still nothing quite like Painscreek. Here we see the virtues of the comment section once again, as I can now share some of these recommended titles. And bear in mind, I haven't actually played any of these. Her Story is a non-linear game described as an interactive film created by Sam Barlow, who I'm told is the creator of the British Silent Hill games. Sagebrush is a game about exploring the remains of a cult compound after some Kool-Aid shit went down. A Hand with Many Fingers is a game about putting together a real-life conspiracy theory about a man named Frank Nugan who died in the 1980s. Rome, Caesar's Will sounds absolutely insane, being a 3-act mystery game set in historical Rome. It was also released in the year 2000 and might be considered abandonware. I'm really not so sure. The Return of the Obra Dinn is easily one of the most requested and unique mystery games I've ever had people tell me to play. I really don't know a damn thing about it, except that everything from the premise to the puzzles to the art direction are supposed to be totally inspired and unique. And finally, Gone Home, which actually comes recommended by EQ Studios themselves, as they cited it as a chief inspiration of Painscreek's design in their book. Thank you for reminding me, Ren, to include these recommendations, for allowing me to use your footage, and for helping me conquer my prejudice against anime women. I still think they're pretty scary, but at least I am informed. Character Select gives us a 2-for-1 with their final comments. Tyler says, ultimately, it's a bit of a letdown ending. They spell out everything, you don't get to jacuzzi the killer because a ghost helps you kill them, and the chase sequence is annoying. Harsh words. Dave then critically elaborates, the thrill of solving the mystery is undermined by the game handing it to you at the end. If there had not been a smoking gun and final chase sequence, it would have been one of the best puzzle games I'd ever played. In the end, everything up to the end is fantastic. The ending itself is fine, but not great. Still a really great game. I personally don't find the ending to be as damaging as the Hunch Bunch claims, but I do agree with their critiques. The Painscreek Killings is an excellent mystery game, up until the final reveal, at which point it then becomes an excellent mystery movie. A way that I think things could have been improved is possibly if the regular ending of Painscreek were actually a secret ending, almost like a reward, or even a punishment, for the detectives who couldn't leave well enough alone. But alas, if the Painscreek Killings didn't end the way that it did, how would it end? Would you just collect the tape of Matthew's confession and leave Painscreek? Or could there be a better, more intelligent way to end it? One that doesn't spell it out for you, as Tyler said. Dave and Tyler, thank you very much for being a part of my videos and enduring my constant abuse. May your frack tactical geniuses take you far in life. And finally, Bardic Jen and the combined correspondence I shared with her in past weeks both have a lot to say. In her final thoughts email, Jen shared the following. Opinions about the game? I really liked it. Of course it's flawed, but it's a really fun experience. Aside from my comments at the end of my last video, I do wish the localization was a bit more polished, and also that they'd patch that darn pixel in the dartboard. When Jen says localization, she's referring to the documents the players read and collect throughout the game. By now you've probably noticed that they contain a litany of typos. Jen often made note of these mistakes throughout her playthrough, but was always very forgiving of them, as they never really obscured the meaning of what was being conveyed. But I do think it deserves to be said that all these little mistakes can add up and break immersion, especially when separate characters make the same grammatical errors. As you've no doubt noticed, much of the development team for the Painscreek Killings likely knows English as a second language. It's also easy to imagine that in the vast and complicated world of game design, there must be many other moving parts that receive priority before the writing of documents. All the same, I personally believe neither of these two reasons justify much of the game's text reading so choppily. Just look at Scratches, which was designed by a Spanish-speaking team, and see how strong their command of the English language was in that game, both in the written documents and scripted dialogue. Passionately, I will maintain that grammar and spelling do make a huge difference in the development of any game. And to put my money where my mouth is, I will now humbly place my email on the screen. Should there be any little game devs out there who wish to have a proofread of their game's documents, particularly if English is not your strongest language, you are more than welcome to reach out to me, as I would be happy to give you a grammar and spelling check should you have no one else to consult, and provided I can make the time. Back to the Genster, you might recall that at the end of the act, I alluded to Jen having said a thing or two in that email that I withheld from you. And it's true, I have been a little sneaky with my edits. Allow me to share a quote from Jen during her tribulations at the end of Act 3, where she wandered in Painscreek searching for the storm drain key.
I think that my advice to anybody playing this game would be, don't be afraid to look stuff up. It's a little frustrating when you get to a certain point and it's like, I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that for me, but for other people, like, go for it. Whatever.
So the one player who refused to search any hints fully endorses and even recommends searching for hints when you play this game. That is certainly at odds with the developer's ideology. But let's let her cook. In that email Jen sent me, where she verified she beat the game without any spoilers, she also said the following. I could write my own dissertation on this topic of looking up hints probably, but let me add just this much. I wasn't playing to a live audience, and I knew I could edit my footage to cut the boring parts where nothing was happening. So I let myself take my time. Okay, now here's the really interesting part. Also, I had received some less than kind comments on past playthroughs about how I missed things or was a cheater for looking up any hints at all. That pushed me into not wanting to look up anything, even if it took longer. And as I said, I was still very close to doing so. So it seems that our main character has a tragic backstory to boot. Jen claims that she likely would have searched for hints to play this game if she wasn't recording it for YouTube, because in the past she had come under fire for receiving hints online. This means that Jen's Painscreek experience wasn't as natural as I originally thought. It turns out she was kind of under coercion to play it straight. This sure is a predicament. On one hand, there is the developer's wishes, with which I currently stand, which is that you should be strongly discouraged from using hints in this game. But on the other hand, this creates a get good culture, which can sometimes lead to people being bullied online for playing these games casually. I sense the beginning of a long and dreary moral debate on this topic, one that I'm not so qualified to speak on, as I am absolutely biased. Dark Souls does not need an easy mode, journalists need to get good, and the Painscreek Killings does not need built-in hints. But even so, I think I would be acting in bad faith to conveniently gloss over this verse in the Ballad of Bardic Jen. The chances are that she probably would have searched for spoilers if it wasn't for those impolite comments. Whether or not these are a net negative or net positive, I leave open to you. Jen, thank you so much for not only volunteering your footage, but having the gumption to challenge yourself like you did. And should you ever write that dissertation on receiving hints in mystery games, please do send a copy my way. And then for our fourth investigator, I suppose that would be me. Above anything else, I made these videos because I found the Painscreek Killings to be a brave, fascinating, and especially refreshing endeavor in storytelling. And I wanted to understand what went into making such a thing, and if it always worked the way it was intended. Though it's not so easy to say in a few words, I believe I have learned a great deal from this experiment. Here at the end, evidenced by the many amateurish tests we have performed, I am convinced of the following. The Painscreek Killings is a brilliant, trend-setting, one-of-a-kind mystery premise, which functions, but struggles at times in its execution. All things considered, I would probably call it a 7 out of 10, but there is no reason why a game like Painscreek could not be a 10 out of 10. And if you think you can make an open-world, non-linear mystery better than EQ Studios did, then I implore you to start work on it today. I love the Painscreek Killings, and we need more games like it. Many thanks are in order. My illustrator Kaylee never fails me with the thumbnails and illustrations and random solution range graphs that my videos need, and for that I am grateful. She takes commissions under the moniker Trilonaut, and you can find her pages in the description. Likewise, my good chum Zach, who who some of you might know as the goober who sat down and explained Silent Hill 2 to me, is who we have to thank for the excellent music throughout all 3 of these episodes. He operates under the handle Nerve Score, and should you be in the market for some baller instrumental of any kind, I'm sure he'd love to speak with you. His link can also be found in the description. Now is as good of a time as any to thank Mr. Ian Rice Jones, a professor of sorts in media arts, who compiled one of the more thorough Painscreek Killings walkthroughs I've ever seen. His blog, Intermittent Mechanism, served me as a helpful reference at times, and for that I thank him and leave a link to his blog in the description. Our outro song comes courtesy of a local band called Stillcastle, who some friends of mine play in. Very cool of you guys for allowing my series to go out with a banger. EQ Studios, of course, are deserving of great appreciation for supplementing this series with an interview, as well as creating the game that we've now spent eons talking about. I plan to publish that full interview in a number of days, though I must warn you in advance that I am an amateurish host in the presence of such accomplished guests. Thank you to my patrons for giving me $5. That was very cool of you. Should anyone else wish to support my work, I did sell out and make a Patreon, which can also be found below. I plan to make more ridiculous videos of a similar length in the future, but for now it's time I play some more of the games you've all recommended. To mitigate notification spam on the main channel, I've actually begun a second channel for more frivolous streams and uploads. It is titled exactly what you'd expect, and you can find a link in the description. As for the immediate future, I'm gonna go touch some grass. I haven't gone near the stuff since this wild journey began. Be well, take care, and vote for Holt.